Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Regal Podcast with me, Jordan Lewis, and my good friend Harry Cutress. Today we are going to be answering a bit of facts and questions. So you guys have sent in a bunch of questions surrounding business, marketing, dating, relationships, and just some general questions for us to answer. So today we're going to be answering those questions for you guys, and yeah, enjoy the episode. So, to start off, I've got a question for you, Mr. Cutress. Is there actually a need for humans to date when they're young?
Is there a need for humans to date when they're young? Bloody hell. Does the question say how young it's talking? Because the answer, different people call young different things. Do I think 4-year-olds need to date? No. Do I think you could start dating when you're 18, 19? Yeah, go for it.
The question was asked by somebody who was like 20, 21 sort of age, so I'm going to assume that's what they mean by young.
It's like a young adult, late teens kind of thing. Okay. Yes. I don't really see any reason why at any age you can't date. I think it's more a question of the goal of dating. So chances are, if you're dating when I'll use the stupid example. If you're 5, you are not dating based on this is the person I want to be for the rest of my life, because you don't know what you want from your life. You're not mature enough. It's not going to be an attractive relationship. There's going to be no attraction of sexual attraction, etc. So yeah, being very, very young is pointless. But other than that, I don't really see an issue whatsoever. It's more a question of the reason you're dating. If you're dating purely because you don't want to be alone, I have a problem with that. I think that's kind of just stupid. But if you're 18, 19 and you're going, right, I want to find somebody who I can spend the next couple of years with or the rest of my life with and build something with, then no issue whatsoever.
What about if you were let's say 20, 21-year-old who's running a business and you're basically trying to decide, well, should I be putting all of my time and energy into my business, or should I be committing some of my time to looking for a date or a relationship? Or would you be better focusing hard on your business and worrying about the relationship later?
It will depend on the specific situation. Different people are different, and therefore the answer will change. So I'm not going to give you a definitive rule here. But as a general rule, I'd say that I don't think it's one of those where you have to pick and choose. My logic very much is you should kind of be finding people by doing things that you enjoy doing. So if, for example, you do enjoy going out on a Saturday night to nightclubs and finding, and you really like, say, house music, and you want to go to a house club, and you're there out blowing off steam and celebrating, and you then happen to meet somebody who ticks all your boxes and it'll be a great relationship and everything like that, and you're attracted to, then I don't see a problem with you continuing that relationship on. I do think that being in a relationship, if you're in the right relationship at least, it can be the best thing for your business. I think having somebody in your corner, someone you can partner with, someone who can be like a teammate, will absolutely give you support and help you kind of achieve your goals in business. So I don't think there's really a time when you should be saying, no, I'm going full monk mode, full abstinence. I'm going to become an incel for 6 months to start my business. I think it should be a case of don't use dating as a distraction. But if you can be in the right circumstances so that the dating can, if anything, help your business, I don't see a problem with that at all.
Obviously, you said that the right relationship can help a business, and obviously on the flip side of that, the wrong relationship can hinder a business. I've experienced that firsthand. So what to you, or what generally as a general rule would you think makes the right relationship then to help a business?
Okay, again, it's very individual, but it's a question of values. Do you have the same long-term goals? Do you have the same values in place? Is it somebody who is supporting your business? Is it somebody who understands that, look, this is something that matters to you, this is one of your goals, this is your mission in life, and so they're going to be happy when you turn around and say, right, I'm going to just absolutely crank today, I'm going to absolutely smash it, I'm just going to be sat down on this laptop working, I'm going to be with clients all day, you're not going to see me for like 12 hours, if you've got somebody like that who understands that and that all works, then it's not going to cause problems in the relationship. Where I say the wrong relationship, or I say like the wrong partner, is when somebody, for example, says to you, oh, I love how ambitious you are, I love how hardworking you are. But then equally, when you start being ambitious or you start trying to grow and work hard to grow your mission, you grow your business, etc., achieve your goals, they then get resentful and they try and guilt trip you to hold you down to stop you succeeding. So long as you have the right partner in the sense that they're supporting you, they're helping you grow, they're pushing you forward and motivating you, I don't see an issue regardless of your age, really.
Okay, makes sense. All right, cool. Any more thoughts to add to that question, or?
No, not really. I don't think age really is a factor in dating outside of, so long as you're at the very least mature enough to know what you're doing and you're being open and honest to people. I don't think there's particularly an age thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's laws regarding sex and being able to consent and things like that, which I agree with. But the point I'm making is, even if you're under the age of consent, I don't see why you can't date. Because again, you can have somebody who's just brilliantly supportive, who helps you. Maybe you're still at school and you're 14, 15. You can still have a partner who motivates you to work hard on a side hustle. Maybe you're starting already, or motivate you to work hard with your extracurricular or with your grades, work hard and trying to achieve and study hard. I don't see an issue with that at all.
Okay, makes sense. Next question then. So this is a question primarily aimed at me, but at the same time we can both answer it because we've both had experience running a business and marketing a business. So how did I make my services essential for my customers, e.g. target audience, marketing, etc.? So one thing that I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, and one thing that I definitely struggled with when I first kind of started my business, is not just making your services or your products something that your customers want. It's got to be something that your customers need, and you frame it in that way. So to kind of do that, the first and most important thing you need to do is actually understand who your customers are and who your target customers are. So, just choose a niche, whether, let's say you only want to work with 20 to 30-year-old entrepreneurs. That's fine. Just work with that niche. And once you understand that niche, you can then start to understand their pain points, their hopes, their desires, what makes them tick, essentially. So now you know who you're marketing to and what would appeal to them. You can kind of then frame it as whatever they feel is a necessity, whatever that group that you've decided you want to target market finds a necessity. So for example, 20 to 30-year-old business owners, I would say a majority of those, they would probably find being able to go out clubbing on a weekend a necessity. Now, I know that's obviously not possible as much with COVID, but that, as a general rule, that could be something that they find as a necessity. So, for example, if your services help them save time, you don't just say, our services help you save time. You frame it as, our services help you save time so that you can then go clubbing. And then you basically market it in such a way that it's not just you help them achieve that, but without your services, it's not going to be possible to achieve that. So that's kind of how you'd go about marketing your services and your business in that way. You just find your customer, find what makes them tick and what they find necessary outside of your services, and then align the two and make one impossible without the other. Any thoughts from you, Harry?
I agree with everything you've said. I'd take a slightly different route though, where I'd say if you are truly an expert or a genius or an authority in your field, you know what the problems people face are, whether it's the exact same problems you once faced or whether it's a problem that you just see constantly coming up and recurring with other people. And that is the product you should be launching. So in terms of dating coaching, like for example, I've seen very, very few people with a genuine issue getting, having a threesome. So it's not a product or a course I'm willing to kind of coach or teach or sell. Whereas I know from my own experience and my own evolution, but I also know from just dealing with clients and looking around the issue lots and lots of guys in particular face is the social anxiety. It is being able to approach, it's being confident. So it's a case of, because I was an expert in my field, it was very obvious to me where the problems were that people faced. So it then became very easy for me to go, right, this is the problem I want to fix then, because this is the problem people need fixing, and this is what will give the most value to my customers.
Okay, so you're much more of a fan of basically tailoring the services to the demands of the market rather than trying to do it after you've actually established your service as a product.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier, certainly when you're starting off at least, to tailor your service to what the market wants, rather than trying to use branding and frame control and marketing tools, etc., to convince people this is what they need. I think it's much easier to kind of ask your audience, ask your ideal clients, what is it you need? What are you struggling with? What can I help you with? And then when they give you a list of, say, 5 things, you then kind of ask it repeatedly. And when the same couple things come up, you then have a platform to start with easily that you know is going to sell. And, people are particularly interested in paying for and buying. Whereas whenever you do marketing, you're trying to convince somebody anything, there's always going to be a chance that it's going to fall flat, whether it because 1,000 reasons, from copy down to the frame you use, etc. So I think it's much easier to start from the premise of, right, how can I help people? Well, I can help them by solving a problem. Okay, what problem are they facing? This is the problem they face. Okay, let's go solve that problem. I think that's an easier approach, particularly when you start off.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I definitely agree with that. So for the person asking the question, essentially you've got 2 options. One, which I agree would be way easier, is to essentially do some research, figure out what the necessity already is, and then go down that route and build your services around that, which makes a lot of sense, and I think it would be much more straightforward, and it's definitely less of an uphill battle. But if you really have your heart set on your services for whatever reason, then that kind of just follow what I said and kind of frame it in that way. It will be a lot more difficult, but that is basically the way to do it if you are adamant that you want to deliver those services for whatever reason you might have. Okay, cheers. Another question for you then, Harry. What do I do?
Oh, okay.
What do I do as a woman when my boyfriend says he doesn't want to sleep with me as he is too tired, or because he's too busy doing work, or one of 100 other reasonable excuses?
Okay. I do need a bit more information to be able to answer this perfectly, so apologies in advance if I'm not able to give you the perfect answer. It's one of these things that when you send in questions, please give it as, like, if you send in like a full side of A4, as much as you may think that's annoying, that does actually help us out, because the more context we have, the more specific the advice we can give. So I'm assuming, based on the way you've said the question, which is it's a relatively new thing. It's not been for the last 2 years. He comes home, he's just not interested in having sex, because I assume you just wouldn't have stayed with him that long. So I assume it's a relatively new thing. If it's a case of it's a very new job, i.e. he's had it for kind of under a month, and Monday to Friday he gets home from work and he's just done, and he's just kind of not interested in doing anything. He just wants to kind of get home, have dinner, chill out for an hour watching Netflix, playing Xbox, whatever, and then just go to sleep. Give it time, because there is a chance that that's just his body and his brain kind of getting used to the new kind of stresses in his life and the new kind of routine he's in. Once he kind of gets accustomed to that routine, you probably will see some of these excuses start to dissipate as you'll have more energy, because your body just gets used to kind of, that is your new standard of living now. You're now used to that kind of idea of you work 12 hours, for example, you come home, you're physically exhausted. Once you've done that 3, 4, 500 times, that's normal. Your body gets used to it. You kind of become sturdier and more robust as a result. If it's a case of it's not fixing and it's been slightly longer now, so you feel like it's not that, and it's a case of no, he definitely isn't just kind of acclimatizing to a new job, and it's more a case of, I feel, because it seems to imply, because you did call them reasonable excuses, but the fact you'd even go there and talk about reasonable excuses almost implies that on the face, logically, you believe that they're reasonable, but maybe emotionally you don't. And that's when I'd actually have a conversation with him and just say, very defensively, very non-defensively, very non-aggressively, just turn around and say, hey, just so you know, I feel like recently you just haven't been interested in me sexually because you just haven't been interested. You keep having excuses. I'm not saying they're not valid excuses. I'm not saying like they're not good reasons. When you do this, it makes me feel like you're not attracted to me. It makes me feel like you're not interested. It makes me feel like maybe you want out of this relationship, whatever it may be. Only you know how it makes you feel, and just have that honest conversation and be very non-accusory. So don't say you're doing this to make me feel like this, or don't say you are a bastard or anything like that. You want to be very, when you do this behavior, this is how it makes me feel. And it's really important you do it that way, because as soon as you start throwing in extreme examples, so if you say, oh, well, you never want to have sex with me, or any moderately competitive person is going to respond to that immediately by going, hang on, 2 weeks ago. Or they'll find the one kind of exception to kind of defend themselves from against an attack of ever. So if you're very calm and you're very collected, and you just turn around and say, look, when you do this behavior, and I'm not saying you do it all the time, but when you do this, it makes me feel like this. There's nothing they can really argue with that. All they can do is give you an explanation or a justification. And there's really nowhere you can go until you've had that conversation. Once you've had the conversation, their response may be, yeah, well, to be honest with you, that's true. I'm just not attracted to you anymore. I just want out. In which case, that's the end. It may be they turn around and say, look, I'm just under a lot of stress at work. At work, I just get absolutely ripped into all day, every day. I come home, I feel really like emasculated at work. And it means I don't feel particularly comfortable or attractive. And because I don't feel attractive, it means that I'm just not in the mood. So it may be something like that. And if it's something like that, then it's a case of, okay, that's fine. Well, how can you help him? Almost like a counselor. How can you kind of support him and make him feel more masculine again and more confident and more like a man, etc. It does very much depend on the specific situation you're in.
Yeah, no, I completely get you. I think one of the biggest...
Anything you would add, Jordan?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest problems that comes with that kind of, well, problem to say, is obviously like with women, I assume it's the similar way round, but with women it kind of almost makes them feel insecure. Like you kind of touched on, like, do they still find me attractive? Do they still love me? And as somebody who is running a business, and I know for a fact that I don't feel like having sex every single day. Like I'm just too tired some nights, or I'm too stressed, or I'm thinking about the podcast that I've got to do next week or whatever. And it's just kind of a case of understanding, like, don't get me wrong, there are cases where your partner just won't be attracted to you anymore, at which point it's just, you're going to break up, and that's just kind of it. But you've got to understand that just because somebody doesn't want to have sex with you there and then when you want to, it doesn't mean they're not attracted to you necessarily. And it's exactly what Harry said. Just be open, be honest, don't be confrontational, and don't talk in like absolutes, just in case you're dealing with somebody who's that competitive that they would go out of their way just to prove you wrong. So as long as you're doing those things and you're talking about it and discussing it in that way, then that's kind of the best way to ensure the best outcome for both people. If you break up because you don't find, or he doesn't find you attractive, or you don't find each other attractive anymore, that's okay. That's how it works out sometimes. But if you talk and he's just like, yeah, it's just my work, I'm just super busy or stressed about this thing, then you know that it's nothing to do with you. It's literally just an external factor that will hopefully anyway be a temporary factor. And if it's not a temporary factor, then it's something that you can try and work out together.
Yeah, I think one last thing to add as well is it's really important that you do have this conversation, regardless of how it goes, just because at the end of the day, the thing that kills most relationships is resentment. And the resentment comes from the arguments that you don't have, or the conversations that you don't have. Something Jordan Peterson points out really, really well in loads of his interviews and even in his book, which is essentially, look, if every single time, so say for example, I'm in this situation, if every single time I come home, I'm not in the mood to have sex with my partner, well, that annoys her, let's say half an hour per day, 5 days a week. Well, that's now 2.5 hours a week. Over a case of over a month, that's 10 hours. Well, if you're having negative thoughts about somebody for 10 hours a month, which works out to be 120 hours a year, that is a lot of argument, that's a lot of resentment, that's a lot of negative emotion that's building up towards this person. And if you don't have the conversation, you don't try and work out where you are now, you're going to end up in a situation where that just boils over and festers, and then it just blows up into a massive thing. The only other thing I'd point out as well is it's important to pay attention to if it's a change in behavior. So if it's a case whereby you really only really were having sex once a week anyway, and maybe it used to be on a Wednesday, but now it's on a Saturday, but the frequency at which you have sex kind of hasn't changed that much, then maybe it's not an issue. Maybe it's a question of, well, Wednesday was the day he was full of energy. Now, because of work, it's the Saturday. The amount you're having sex hasn't changed. The big thing is noticing a significant change in a pattern of behavior, because that's what tells you something has changed. So that's kind of another thing to make sure you're paying attention to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And another thing as well is you just got to remember that this kind of this kind of knowledge, or this kind of skill almost, isn't just applicable to relationships in terms of romantic relationships either. Like if you have a friendship or a relationship with your mum or dad, or even your brother, that you have an issue with about anything, if you follow the general rule of being open, honest and non-confrontational, generally speaking, you're always going to arrive at an outcome that is the best outcome, or at least a better outcome for both parties.
Yeah, definitely. You ready for one of the questions I got sent, aimed at you?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So in a past episode, you kind of said that your advice to people is just fucking start, basically. Just start doing something. It doesn't really matter. Stop wasting your time thinking about what to do, just start. Well, their question was, how do I know specifically where I should be starting? Do I want to go down Instagram? Do I want to create a LinkedIn profile? Do I want to create a podcast or YouTube? Or do I want to do blogs? How do I start? How do I know where to start? Because I don't want to kind of start down Instagram and realize I've just wasted my time for a year or so.
Okay, do you know how old this person is?
Yeah, they're in their early 20s.
Early 20s, okay. So my general advice for finding out, for basically figuring out where you should start, is, as I've said in a few of my videos and some of my stories, and I believe in a past podcast episode, that before you do what you love and before you do what you're passionate about, if you're not able to make money from that, if you don't know how to monetize that right now, the first and most important thing you should do is do what you're good at. And the only way to find out what you're good at is to try everything. And if you're 20, early 20s, then you've got essentially 10 years. Like, I consider 20 to 30 the kind of the building years. That's the year you figure out what you're good at and what you enjoy and really build the foundation. And then past 30, it's basically like the scale time, the growth time. So essentially, my kind of advice to you would be to just try things out. Try Instagram for a couple of months rather than a year. And if you do really well on it and you enjoy it, fantastic, then go for Instagram. If you find that you're not getting much growth on Instagram, try LinkedIn. LinkedIn at the moment is fantastic for organic engagement, so that may work better for you. And in terms of the platform, it doesn't matter so much. It's more about what you're doing with it. So it's just the same logic with a skill though. So for example, I tried out copywriting and I happen to love copywriting. So like I've gone down that route and I've really enjoyed it and I've made a good amount of money from it so far. But equally, if I had tried copywriting for a couple of months and I just couldn't stand it, then I would have tried a different skill. Like maybe I'd have gone down the programming route and tried that for 2 or 3 months. So basically pick something, just literally have a list of all the possible high paying skills, high income skills as my mentors call them. Just create a list of those which would be copy, closing, speaking, programming. If you can learn a language, that's great, although it's probably not monetizable in and of itself. But if you can go down those routes, graphic design, website design, all these sort of things, if you can learn one of those skills and you find one that you really enjoy, and also one that you can monetize and start making a decent monthly profit from, then that's kind of the first step to go. And like I said, because you're early 20, if you fail after a few months, it's fine. You just then go down the list, try the next one, and the next one, and the next one. But if you want to get a feel for something before you make a commitment, so let's say you don't want to go straight in and register a business and start doing your taxes and all that sort of stuff in a business for a skill, just start doing it as a freelancer. Literally just, I don't know, set up an Instagram or a LinkedIn page and say, I am a freelance web designer, I am a freelance copywriter, or just go on a freelance website like Fiverr or Upwork is another good one, and literally just set up an account on there. It takes 10 minutes and just, literally just have a feel for how you enjoy working for a client. And then, just literally do, test, try, restructure, basically.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is just to reiterate a point you made, which is you're fucking 20, dude. Like, let's say your goal in life is you want to be millionaire by 30. You can fail for the next 9 years, or 9 years, 6 months, and then in the last 6 months, smashed out the park and make £1 million. Mm-hmm. Like, it's doable. People have made way more money than that in way shorter periods of time. Mm-hmm. So don't put this stress on you of thinking, oh, I have to be successful by 21. I have to be successful by 22, by 25. I don't even have to be successful by 30. All you really have to do, if you want to kind of keep your mindset going right and you want to be confident and you want to be happy with who you are, is to just keep fucking going and to keep actually trying something. So as long as you're making progress, it doesn't have to be every single day. You're allowed days off. But so long as you're making progress kind of week on week, month on month, year on year, you're doing fine. So if that means you create 12 businesses over the next 12 years, one each year, and it fails and it fails and it fails and it fails and it fails, and on the 13th business, you hit a home run and you start making money and you start becoming profitable and you become financially free and independent, that's still a success. Nobody really cares about your losses once you win. People only care about the losses because if you never won. Nobody cares about the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo has missed however many goals that he's missed or however many shots. People do care about all the goals he's scored, all the games he's won, all the trophies. So don't worry about the misses. See it all as like almost like a football match. You're allowed to keep missing. You're allowed to fuck up in training. You're allowed to keep going and going and going. What matters is you don't ever stop. And by the end of life, you have become a success. And you will absolutely do it. If you just keep trying and you do learn from your mistakes and you keep growing and improving and you get the right mentors and you get the right advice and you correct based on the mistakes you've made in the past, you will absolutely become a success.
Yeah, 100%. The analogy I like that Jason Capital actually used is to find success or to get success is essentially like being in a room with 10,000 doors and only one of them is the door that will take you to success. The only way to basically get to that door that's going to take you to success is to knock on every single door and go through each door until you find the right one, and obviously learn that the door that you've just knocked on is not the door to success. And it's the same sort of process. It's just every door you knock on and that a door isn't a door to success is just one more step closer to being successful. So even when you're failing, you're actually succeeding. That's kind of how I like to frame it with myself. Every failure is just a step closer to success, so therefore I never fail in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Winston Churchill had a similar kind of quote, and apologies to anybody who knows the specific quote. I'm probably going to butcher it here, but it's not exact, but it's something along the lines of success is just moving from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. And I really like that. And it's a question of, and it's the same with sales. Like you and I talked in the last podcast about how you used to work for me selling tickets and stuff. If you went out, tried to sell a ticket to one person, they said no, and you just went, oh, I'm such a failure at this, oh God, and you just gave up, well then you wouldn't have been who you were 4 months later when you were making £150, £200 in a couple of hours selling tickets. Like, you wouldn't have got there. You need to have that perseverance, and you need to kind of say, this is my first time doing it. I can cut myself some slack. Now, equally, you can't be 25 years into it making the same mistakes, going, yeah, but I'm only 40, so I'm going to cut myself some slack. There is a point when you need to realize, hang on, something's wrong here, and it has to be me, because I've tried too many things where I'm the only common denominator. But certainly when you're young, just go for it. It doesn't really matter what you pick. You can pick the worst idea in the world. You can pick the worst platform. You can get everything wrong. At the very least, you're going to learn what not to do. So the next time you do it, you have a slightly more improved and informed decision to make. And yeah, you'll just smash it.
Yeah, 100%. And I know one thing that a lot of people will be concerned about with trying lots of things is not having the money to try lots of things. But to be honest with you, in 2021, you can very easily run a very profitable business without spending anything, to be honest. Like, if you set up as a freelancer on Fiverr, for example, when I set up as a freelance copywriter on Fiverr, I spent exactly zero making anything. Like, I made my own profile picture because it was just a picture of me. I wrote all my own bios and everything. I didn't pay anything because I didn't have a website. I didn't even use social media at that point, to be fair. And I made a good few grand within the space of a couple of months when I was doing that. And, you know, that's me spending nothing. So you can very easily try things, even if it is just as a freelancer, without spending anything. Okay, so next question, we've got another business-related question. Specifically, if I have had a considerable amount of time off from work recently, how do I get back into my old work routine of 10 hours plus daily? I'll let you share your thoughts on this, Harry, because I know you've kind of, you've had time off because of furlough, and then it's kind of now you're getting back into work and sort of doing more work for Regal Confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. The way I see it is you just don't change your routine. You might change specifically what you're doing in the day, but the routine you make the same. So if, say, for example, you said 10 hours. So let's say you're working from 10 o'clock in the morning and you're finishing at, would that be 8 p.m.? You make sure that from 10 o'clock in the morning to 8 p.m. you're up, you're active, you're doing things. If you were setting your alarm beforehand when you would work at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're going to bed at, let's say, 11 at night, you make sure you start doing that same process, the same routine again. You don't have to, obviously, but it means that there'll be a slightly more of a bite and slightly more of a pain point when you go back to work and your body has to acclimatize. Something I've noticed Jocko Willink, for example, talks about a lot, Dwayne Johnson, a lot of kind of these super high performer, Navy SEAL super actor types, is they talk about how they have the same wake up time every day, Monday through Sunday, whether it's Christmas Day or their birthday or just a random Tuesday in the middle of February, they have the same routine. So they're up at the same time every day. They go to bed at the same time every day. They have the same morning routine, morning ritual. And they kind of make sure their routine is as similar as possible so that their body kind of doesn't freak out when they take time off work and then go back. And that's what I'd recommend. So I'd say make sure you're waking up the same time that you would be normally. Make sure you're going to bed at the same time. Try and give yourself some kind of semblance to that same routine.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's definitely something I've found that's helped me personally. You know, I used to be the guy.
Anything you would add, mate?
Yeah. So I would basically be the guy who got up at 6 a.m. on weekdays, and then I would stay in bed and sleep in until 11 a.m. on weekends, and that just makes you tired all the time, weekdays and weekends. So now what I do is I actually get up at 7 now, but I make sure, like you say, to get up at the same time every day, have a similar routine, even if it is your birthday, even if it's Christmas, doesn't matter. And you'll just have more energy, and you'll just feel it'll be easier to slip between the two. And another thing I'd add is if this person asking has already actually finished their break and they're now coming back to work and trying to work more, I would basically recommend just kind of ease into it. So incrementally work more hours each day if you need to, or each week if you have a bit more time available. So, Monday work 3 or 4 hours, however much you can focus for, and then increase it by half an hour each day. And then within 2 weeks, you'll then be back to working 10 hours a day if you want to. But overall, I'm a big fan of working less hours anyway and kind of getting more done. So I think it may be worth you looking into having 2 3-hour blocks of completely focused, no distraction work time, and then kind of doing it that way, because at the end of the day, yes, you'll be working 2 3-hour blocks of completely focused, no distractions, but on the flip side of that, you've then got an additional 10 hours in the day that you can spend doing what you want, or having more relaxed work time if that's what you really want to do. And I think by having more of that time off and more of that time not working, you're actually then going to become more focused and more kind of efficient with your work when you actually are working. So that's kind of how I would go about it in an ideal world.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for anybody who's listening who, for example, say doesn't have their own business, they're not working for themselves, they're an employee, so they don't get to control the hours they work each day, etc. Something I'd throw in, similar to kind of what Jordan was saying about the efficiency, is start with whatever the hardest part of your day is. So if you've got, for example, 5 tasks to do at work, you're working a 9 to 5, you've got 5 big things you need to get done, work out which one's the hardest, which is the one that you kind of want to put off. Tackle that first thing in the morning. Make sure you're going into work full of energy and motivation. Smash that out first, and then you've got a massive amount of kind of momentum to carry you through the others. And it means even if you don't get everything done that day, you can still look back and go, well, I got the hardest thing done, so I can be proud of myself. And tomorrow is going to be an easier day because I don't have that difficult thing to do. And I haven't put it off until it's right on the deadline and it's right on crunch time.
100%. Eat the frog first thing in the morning. Okay, next question then. We've got something that's not specific to business, more kind of political, economic, that kind of realm. So I think you'll kind of love this question. Thoughts on the current system and how a capitalist mindset causes others to lose out?
Do you want me to go first, or are we going to hear your thoughts?
No, yeah, you can go first, mate.
All right. I actually disagree with the question to begin with. And I'll explain why. I don't think that capitalism necessarily means that other people lose out. I can see why people see that in the sense of, well, Jeff Bezos has whatever it is, 100-something odd billion dollars, and the average person in the UK earns, I think it's £26,000 a year or something. So I can see how you can say, well, the more money he has, there's less money for him. But I don't think the economy is a zero-sum game. I think that if you look at, we'll use Jeff Bezos as this example. He's made that money through pretty much exclusively through Amazon. We have all gained from the existence of Amazon, whether it's Amazon Prime, whether it's the faster delivery times, whether it's people who have been employed by Amazon, whether it's the delivery drivers, whether it's the better quality product, whether it's the quicker access to these products where it's all in one place and you have to shop around on the high street, etc. I think that the value that Amazon has provided to the average person is fantastic, and he has kind of made money as a result of the value he's given. There are definitely people in any kind of system we have, capitalist or not, who are abusive and corrupt and kind of abuse the system in order to gain themselves without providing any value. But I don't think that necessarily all the people who benefit from capitalism do so by making other people worse off. In the same case, I'll use myself as an example here. I obviously charge for dating coaching, and I charge for my courses, my workshops, my one-to-one coaching, my summits, my books, etc. I think that the value I provide in each one of those services and products is greater than what I actually charge for them. Therefore, they've gained the value of action steps they can take, meditation, mindset tweaks, specific techniques they can use, etc., and advice they can use, and they can make their life better off as a result, and they become happier and healthier, and they become more valuable people who make the world a better place and all the people around them better off. So they've gained value from the interaction. I've obviously gained financial value from the interaction, and nobody forced them at any point to buy my product or any of my products. Jeff Bezos does not walk in, put a gun to my head and say, Harry, you better pay for Amazon Video tonight. If you don't pay for your Amazon Video subscription, I'm going to kill you. That hasn't happened. I have looked at the product, decided that the value of watching the Grand Tour or whatever the show may be is greater than the cost of paying whatever it is, a subscription, $9.99 a month or something like that. So I don't think capitalism necessarily means that people lose out. I think the biggest issue is lots of people don't realize what the game is. I think that people think that capitalism is about working hard, and I don't think that's true. I think that's a mistake that was maybe been generations old, that people, your great-grandparents talked about, well, if you just work hard, you'll succeed. And don't get me wrong, working hard is important. But if you're the best in the world, you're the hardest worker at picking your nose, that isn't going to equate to any value to anybody else, so nobody's going to pay you for it. Whereas if you're a really hard worker, you come up with a fantastic product that revolutionizes the world, completely changes the way things are done, like, say, Elon Musk now with Tesla. He's kind of sorting out global warming and all these climate change issues for electric cars. He's made the world a better place, and he's been financially rewarded for it. And I don't necessarily see a problem there, because the world is getting better due to electric cars. Now, there's papers out there to suggest that maybe they're not, because the batteries, etc. But at the very least, the people who buy the product believe that they are making the world a better place by buying these Tesla cars, and therefore, in their eyes, they've gained value. Obviously, Tesla's gained value, Elon Musk has gained value, and everyone else has gained value as well. I don't necessarily see it as a zero-sum game.
No, I agree.
What would you say, Jordan?
I'm a strong believer that capitalism essentially rewards those who bring value and punishes those who don't, essentially. I think the main issues, especially with the issues that the person asking the question was specifically asking, is more tailored towards the current system, especially in the UK. I can't really speak on the system in America, but I know for a fact that in the UK, for example, let's say you have a single parent who is earning minimum wage, so they don't pay tax, they get council tax, and they also get child tax benefits, I believe it's called. Universal credit, that's it. So the issue that then comes is, let's say with all of that combined, they're earning, like 20 grand or something, below the first tax threshold. The issue then is that if this person then wanted to get a higher paying job and to strive, be ambitious, deliver more value, get paid more, they would actually then end up earning less than if they got paid less. So, because once you hit that first tax threshold, you A, get taxed, B, you lose your universal credit for earning more, and B, you lose your council tax for earning more. So you're losing all these extra benefits you're getting. So you actually end up earning less, even though you're getting paid more. So at that point, it almost becomes like a vicious cycle of you can't earn more, and it's not beneficial to earn more because then you end up with less money. But if you stay there, then you're technically speaking being one of those people that isn't providing value, isn't striving to make the world a better place, isn't ambitious, when it may not necessarily be the case. So this is going to be a pretty heavy question, and you may not be able to answer it in the podcast, but if you had to come up with a solution, if you were given absolute control, what would your solution be to something like that, to fix people feeling trapped in the minimum wage bracket?
Fucking hell. That's an easy question to answer. Jesus Christ. I think the first thing to say is I think we all agree, regardless of whether you're on the left wing, the right wing, centralist, pro-capitalism, anti-capitalism, etc. I think we all agree that there is a problem with the current system. Because, to be very clear, whether you're in the UK or the US, neither of these are purely capitalist countries. There's a lot of government regulations, there's a lot of kind of outside forces affecting what the free market would dictate otherwise, and those kind of forces affect the way capitalism works. So we all agree that there's an issue with the current system. Where the debate seems to tend to end up is, if you're more on the fiscal conservative side, You want the government to kind of take away regulations. You want free choice. And then you kind of turn around and say, you had a choice, you made a bad choice, so deal with your own consequences, kind of essentially screw you. And equally, if you make the right choices, you succeed, so good on you. And the left seems to be a bit more, well, people can be corrupt and people can be dodgy and people can make just be in terrible, unlucky, unfortunate situations that had nothing to do with any choices they made. If you get hit by a bus tomorrow walking to work, and as a result you're now injured and you can't work for, let's say, 6 months, so you break your leg or something, and you did nothing wrong there. You were hardworking, you were going to work, you were not driving, so you were actively trying to help the environment and pollution and all these issues. But bad luck happened and you broke your leg. These people need to be looked after. And the problem is that both of these people are right. There needs to be a kind of accountability for your own actions, but equally there has to be a safety net there in place for people who are just kind of, they just got bad luck. In the same way, if you look at, you use an example of single mothers. As somebody who's got a newborn child, I can tell you wholeheartedly that it's a fucking difficult job, let alone, and that's with all the support that me and my fiance have, let alone if one of us was trying to do it by ourselves with no other support. It would be, I'm not going to say impossible, because there are people out there who have done it, but it's a fucking difficult job, far more difficult than anything I've had to do in my life, certainly. To raise a child by yourself and find the time to go to work, to earn enough money to pay for living expenses and groceries and pay taxes and do everything else. It's a really fucking difficult thing. The issue I have is I don't like the fact that neither side are agreeing, well, we both see there's a problem, let's debate how we fix it. I think the issue is more, both of them are saying, well, capitalism is the problem, and the other side is saying, no, capitalism is great, your idea of socialism is awful. And I don't like the kind of the picking sides without actually debating the idea. The simple truth is, in terms of your question, which is what would I do, I don't actually have an answer. I do believe that over a long enough time frame, capitalism is a great thing. And I think that if you look at the great innovations that have happened over the last kind of 200 years, whether it be the fact that we used to have computers that were the size of the room I'm in now, and now we have a computer that's 20 times more powerful in the shape of an iPhone or a smartphone, I think that's down to capitalism and the fact that companies knew, well, if we make a better product and we can make it cheaper, then we can sell it for less, which means we'll blow our competition out of the water, we'll make more money, everybody gets a better product. I do believe that benefit does exist. But equally, there are always going to be people left behind. And the question kind of has to be, to what extent do we help the people who are left behind? Because the truth of the matter is, especially more so now than ever before, if you don't have the ability to be involved in tech, chances are you're not going to be able to make serious money. You mentioned kind of coding as a kind of key skill earlier, a high income skill. We're getting towards the stage where if you don't understand how a computer works, or even kind of rudimentary like Microsoft Word and PowerPoint spreadsheets and email, you just cannot function in the 21st century job market. If you can't respond to emails and write memos and fill out spreadsheets, you are really going to struggle in most industries, not all of them obviously, but in most industries, and particularly in industries that pay better. And it's unfortunate, but the truth of the matter is there are some people out there who just don't have it. Whether that's they're at a certain age where learning a new skill is difficult and they're past the point that they're older and they left school by the time technology kind of became prevalent, or whether that's a case of they just kind of by sheer bad genetic luck just don't have the kind of brain that can just learn a new skill and take on new information quickly. Those people are just going to get wiped out by a competitive market. So we do need a safety net for these people, and we do need to support them, because at the end of the day, they're all people, they're all humans, and it's not their fault. They didn't choose their own genetics. But equally, I don't think it's fair to kind of punish people who are phenomenal. Like if we're talking about the Jeff Bezos types, we're talking about somebody who does not take holidays ever, who is incredibly smart, works insane hours, and has given a huge amount of value to society. I think that by what some people are saying, which is a huge tax levy against him, where you just kind of take 99% of his income from him and redistribute it, I think all that does is turn around to all the younger people who could be the next Jeff Bezos, who could be the next revolutionary, the next kind of person who comes with this phenomenal idea that improves all of our lives. it says to them, there's no incentive because you're not going to make money from it. You're not going to have this kind of world famous ability to do whatever you want. You've got so much money. So it takes away the incentive of a lot of people to innovate, to try and create a product, to try and kind of help people. Because if you're not going to be rewarded for the time, the effort, the sweat, the blood, the tears, all the sacrifices, the not going out with your friends so you can stay at home and work, the missing out on seeing your kids' sporting fixture or seeing their dance recital or whatever it may be, missing the school nativity, because instead you were too busy at work, grinding, trying to provide for them and provide a better future. If you don't have a reward for doing it, nobody would do it. Well, some people might, but I certainly think it would be idiotic to make those sacrifices if you can't later on get a financial benefit that you can then use to spoil your family, your kids, your wife, your partner, your wider community, give to charities, etc. So I don't really know what the issue is, but I think both sides are wrong, and the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, where we take 50% from one and 50% from the other and combine the two into kind of a mishmash jigsaw. But certainly not the mishmatched jigsaw that we have now.
Yeah. No, I get you. I think I don't want to get.
What would you do? Same question back to you.
I don't want to get into this too deep because what I'm about to answer could be a whole podcast in and of itself. So I'll keep it brief, and then we'll potentially have a future podcast episode on this. But
yeah,
I think the solution, because I'm a big fan of equality of opportunity, which essentially means everybody has the same chance to achieve whatever they want to. And I think in this specific case, the main and probably the best solution that I can see would be to basically fix the education system. If you manage to create an education system that teaches everybody in the optimal way that they learn, to each individual person, because everybody learns different, if you can optimise the education system to do that, and teach people all of the high income skills that I've talked about and all of the base knowledge, the actual knowledge you will use in life. For example, how to pay taxes is a very basic one that everyone uses as an example. If you have an education system that's teaching everybody that, at the very least, what will happen is that the GDP will shoot up. The net earnings will shoot up for the entire population because everybody will be more educated, and at the very least they will have the opportunity to reach the level of success. They can't say, oh, I didn't get taught this skill, I didn't get taught that this was even an option. They will have been taught that. If they then fail, yes, okay, it might still be bad luck, but a majority of the time it will be because there's just somebody who's willing to sacrifice more of their time, sacrifice more of their personal life to work more. Or, again, they just get lucky. So I think the solution lies in the education system. If you fix the education system, not all the problems will be fixed, don't get me wrong. We will still have, inequality in terms of earnings. But I think the problem will have been greatly reduced, and I think people will feel less victimised if they at least have the right weapons in their arsenal to have the chance to achieve what they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick disclaimer, because I can already feel people typing in the comments right now this second. Like Jordan said, this could be like a 2-hour podcast, us just arguing about economics just in itself. So we are simplifying out our ideas, and we haven't planned this. These are the first times I'm hearing this question, etc. So yes, we are aware that things like inflation will occur if everybody starts earning more, and then essentially in real terms, nobody earns more, etc. We are aware of all these other factors. We just physically don't have time to go through every single factor, because we'd start recording today and we'd finish, what's today's date, Jordan?
Today is the 19th.
Like teens of January, yeah? Early Jan or mid Jan.
Late, yeah.
We'd finish like the end of December. We'd finish at the end of December in 4 years' time, still discussing this.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of question is one of those horrible questions, and it's a really good question. I'm not criticizing it, but I mean, it's a horrible question in the sense that there's so many. It depends on this. What about this? There are these variables that you can't account for. Because at the end of the day, we're not machines. We are humans. We are essentially an animal. we still have animalistic brains, and we still respond more on emotion than we do on logic, even if we try not to admit that. So it means there's always going to be exceptions. There are always going to be people who are let down by any individual system. So we're talking very generally. The thing I'd say is I don't think Jordan or myself in any way are criticizing teachers when we just said like the education system reform. I'm pretty sure Jordan agrees with me here. Teachers are incredibly hardworking and for the most part, really, really good human beings who are doing the job underpaid because they want to help and make a difference in people's lives.
Oh no, 100%.
And I think
the problem isn't with the teachers, it's with the system of education itself. Like the teachers themselves are doing fantastic jobs, especially, considering they've been working during lockdown. The issue is when I say the education system, I mean the way that the education system is structured. That's what I'm referring to. Sorry, carry on.
No, I just wanted to make that very clear. So to any people out there who are going, don't slag off teachers, we're not by any means. No. We think teachers are doing the best job they possibly can out of a terrible situation. It's more the question of the way the syllabus is written by the government, the way that classrooms are set up, etc. And all of that is kind of top down from a governmental level.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's move on before the rioters come with pitchforks.
Yeah, that's fine. No, one last note, I am genuinely impressed at how good a job teachers can do considering the system that they have to use. That's my kind of finishing notes and a bit of a summary on my thoughts. Right, anyway, next question, otherwise this will be the entire podcast. Great question though.
Do you want me to jump in on one?
Yeah, sure.
Because as on the politics thing, I've got a question that's kind of related to politics, I suppose, if you want to take it down that route. The question was, hey Jordan, hey Harry, what do you guys think about using kind of performance enhancers in terms of your productivity and being able to relax? Specifically, things like I see like people on the Wolf of Wall Street and in Wall Street in general, bankers, etc. Kind of there's a running joke that they're all on cocaine because it makes them work harder and it keeps them awake and alert. And then, for example, this person's found that marijuana helps them chill out, relax, and sleep better at nighttime so they can get more sleep for the next day. What are your thoughts on it?
So I kind of have three thoughts on this. Number one is essentially just me saying that I personally am happy for anybody to do what they want as long as they don't harm anybody physically or mentally. So, if they choose that they want to smoke weed at night, for example, smoke marijuana at night to get to sleep, and it helps them and they enjoy it, that's fine, as long as you're not, harming somebody else physically or mentally. So that's my first point. My second point is that for me personally, I wouldn't and don't want to get addicted to anything, and that goes from anything to literally like hard drugs all the way back down to coffee, for example. I enjoy a cup of coffee once in the morning. I don't drink any more than that because I know that if I do, I end up getting addicted to that. I rely on the coffee to actually have energy in the mornings. So basically, the way I kind of look at life is I want to build a life where I don't rely on something like let's say a stimulus, like for example, argument's sake, cocaine, to be able to have enough energy to work. Because if, for whatever reason, suddenly I'm on cocaine, which I'm not, disclaimer, but if I was on cocaine and then suddenly it all went away, I wouldn't be able to do my job. And even coffee, if coffee suddenly stopped existing, first of all, I'd be very sad because I love coffee, but if coffee stopped existing and I relied on coffee to actually wake myself up in the morning, I'm a bit screwed. I'm not going to be able to function. So I think you need to find a way of, if it's energy that's the issue, which it sounds like it is, if you're struggling to get to sleep, I believe was a specific example actually you used, and you feel like you need marijuana to get to sleep, by all means, if you want to, you can continue doing that. It's completely your choice. But if you're looking for a way to not be reliant on that to sleep, I think one of the biggest issues that most people don't realise they have is actually looking at screens before bed. If you're looking at any form of screen with blue light up to an hour before you go to sleep, that's bound to keep you up for another hour or two when you're trying to get to sleep. So if you get off your phones and laptops and screens, like let's say I sleep at 11, I have an alarm that goes off at 10 and says get off your phone, and then I get off my phone, I don't look at a screen, I read for half an hour, talk to my girlfriend, sleep essentially. And it could just literally be as simple as that. It could be that you're drinking caffeine too late in the day and it's not out of your system by the time you need to sleep. If you're dealing with something more serious like insomnia or even PTSD in some cases, I'm aware that marijuana could help with that, but I think the best long-term solution to something like that would basically to be go see a therapist, talk through your problems, and hopefully then put your mind at ease, and then that should help you get a better night's sleep. But again, like I said, if this helps you in the short term at the very least and you're not harming anybody else, then by all means go for it. There was a third part to that question actually. What could you repeat it?
What do you think about performance-enhancing drugs, specifically, for example, cocaine that's often seen in The Wolf of Wall Street and as kind of a running joke that's used in things like lawyers and bankers, etc. in general, in order to kind of give themselves energy, and then something like marijuana to help me chill out and sleep at night time to kind of cool down. What are your thoughts on performance-enhancing drugs?
Okay, yeah, so it's just, do them if you want to do them, but I think it's much better for you to kind of have it internalised, have that energy internalised. The other point I wanted to make is you can use state control to actually do something similar without actually taking cocaine or snorting cocaine or smoking weed or something like that. You can essentially, what I do is when I'm working or when I need to be high energy, I will always play the same song over and over, or at the very least the same playlist over and over. And then if I feel tired when I wake up and I'm starting to work and I'm like, oh, I'm a bit groggy, I don't want to work, I just put that song on or that playlist on, and after about 20 minutes of listening to it, I'm getting energized, I'm sort of ready to go. And then it's after I do that, I then go and record video content, and that's kind of how I seem high energy in at least most of my videos. That's kind of all I've got to say on that. How about you? Anything to add?
The thing I would jump in on is say kind of exactly the same kind of thing in terms of my opinion on drugs, which is I'm very libertarian on the topic. I could not give a flying fuck if people do drugs or not, because at the end of the day, it's not me, and 99.999% of people who ever do drugs don't affect me in any way, shape or form. And kind of the exact same criteria you used, which is at the end of the day, I don't really care what other people do, provided it's not harming somebody else physically or financially. Like, I'm very libertarian in that sense. I'm not going to actively condone or encourage illegal behavior. Obviously, if you're living in the United States where marijuana is legalized or you can get medical marijuana, etc., that's totally different because that makes it not a legal problem. But if you're in the UK, which I happen to know this person asked this question is, I don't recommend engaging in illegal activity just because the risk of that's the one day you get caught or something, it's just not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to take the risk, at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your body, it's your decisions to make, so take that risk. In terms of the utility of performance-enhancing drugs in that sense, while I'm sure there are people out there who can actively say my success was because Wolf of Wall Street mode, I was taking that cocaine and the minute I could just type the fingers quicker, like Matthew McConaughey would say. Or like people who say, like, I just can't sleep if I don't smoke weed. Like kind of Jordan was saying, chances are if you can't sleep at night time, there are reasons for it. It's not just going to be, well, that's your life. Chances are there's probably an underlying anxiety there, or your brain's being kind of activated by blue lights, like Jordan was talking about from screens, or there's something going on in your head that's just kind of keeping you kind of in functioning mode and not in kind of rest, relaxation mode. So there are lots of ways to do it. And again, we could take a whole podcast just talking about nighttime routines. And we could do an entire podcast just on daily routines and morning routines, how you can give yourself more energy, less energy, how you can condition yourself, like you were saying with the songs. But I'm not going to go into all of that because it just take too long. My stance on it very simply is, if it were up to me, I would legalize all of them tomorrow, because I don't see a significant difference personally between if one person is smoking weed in order to chill themselves out and go to sleep versus somebody else who's out there drinking, say, 2 scotches or 5 scotches in order to get themselves to sleep. I don't see a significant difference personally. But the key thing I think is different is I don't particularly think either of those are healthy or good behaviors to have. If you're at a stage where you need to drink or you need to smoke in order to sleep, chances are there's probably some kind of trauma or some kind of anxiety that's niggling at you, and that's what it is. And I think you'd be better off like focusing with it, dealing with it, whether it's journaling, whether it's going to counseling, whether you're doing something like cognitive behavioral therapy or something like that. That might be easier to do it. But as a general rule of, will I actively say to you, you're a bad person if you're using cocaine in order to be more energetic when you're on the phone to clients or whatever? No, I don't care. I do think, however, there's always an alternative way to getting there. And I personally, like Jordan was saying, I would never want to rely on cocaine to be able to psych myself up and get really high energy and be able to go for it and just smash and be upbeat and like going for it and really excited. Because then it means if I don't have any cocaine on me, or if cocaine becomes more expensive, or if there's a clamp down on the drug or whatever it may be, or I'm traveling, I'm on a flight, I suddenly need to be super charismatic and energetic, and I don't have any on me, then I'm screwed. I would much prefer to be able to have the ability to be able to just go, right, and then just get psyched up and just go for it and become super upbeat mode whenever I want to, and just be able to do that internally, and equally be able to go, right, time for bed, time to come down and just chill myself out and get ready to kind of unwind and just talk kind of calmly and not be in your face going forward all the time. I think there's a much better way of doing it that comes from meditation, that comes from therapy, trauma, journaling, etc., than there is from just using drugs. That said, I'm all for legalizing them if that's what your question was.
Okay, cool. Do you want to ask another, or do you want me to?
I've got 2 more. Both of them are kind of a bit more dating relationship-y side. So it's up to you. You got a really good one?
Okay, I'll ask another one, and then we'll go back to you. At what point in a relationship do you think commitment is expected, or at least the dreaded talk in speech marks, in terms of relationship expectations like marriage and children, etc.?
Okay. It does depend on the person. Again, there are no set rules for this. That said, something that I kind of make sure that I make sure my clients hear, and I make them repeat it back to me, so I know they've heard it, so they have no excuse of after the fact kind of claiming that they don't remember me saying it. And something that I personally have always done is I'm very, very clear about my intentions before we've even kissed. I'm very upfront about it, which is a case of, like when I met my current fiance, it's a case of, I am looking for a commitment, I am looking for a relationship, I am looking for a relationship that will lead, if it's the right one, to marriage and kids in the future. Therefore, if you're not open to that, duck out now. If you think that I could be the kind of person that you're looking for the same thing from, brilliant, let's go find out. And the only way to find out is by dating. I personally think it's a complete waste of your fucking time if you're chatting to somebody, dating with them, speaking to them a bit for like 3 to 6 months or for 2 weeks. It's just a waste of that time period. If you then suddenly find out that, oh, I was just looking for friends of benefits. Oh, well, I was looking for a long-term, serious, monogamous relationship where we'd end up married. So I think there's a serious issue, just wasting your time if you don't have that question early on. Obviously, there is a way to have the conversation without kind of coming across as what I'm sure lots of you are picturing now, which is that classic example of kind of like a psycho, super needy girl who goes, so when are we having kids? What should our kids' names be? Like, you don't have to be like that, because that will just scare people off. And in the same way, if a bloke on a first date is saying, yeah, so I'm looking to get married in 2 years, and then I want to have 2 boys and a girl, and we're going to live in this house together in Surrey, and it's going to be great, and all this stuff, like, that's way too full on. Instead, just be honest in the same way that you talk about, so what are your interests? Well, I'm a big fan of rugby and I really like football and chess. I'm a big fan of MMA and I'm actually taking part in an MMA fight in a couple of weeks. It's the same thing of, oh, okay, so tell me more about you, Harry. Oh, okay, well, I'm a club promoter, dating coach, I'm a banker, whatever the truth for you is. And you just say, so how come you're single? Like, what's going on? Because you seem pretty great and we're having a great time together. So why are you single? Like, have you just not found the right guy yet? Or are you intentionally single? Like, what's happening with you? And there's a way of asking that question that doesn't come across as creepy, that doesn't come across as kind of being prying or an interrogator, like interviewing somebody. It can come up in a natural, casual conversation. But I think as a rule, the earlier you have that conversation, the less likely you are to be kind of taken by surprise later on. And there's also obvious ways where you can see, if you keep repeatedly having somebody say, for example, lie to you, like the classic fuckboy, where they're saying, oh yeah, I want a relationship. And then as soon as you sleep together, they ghost you. You can then start going, right, I'm somehow attracting fuckboys. Here's some of the behaviors that maybe I might want to change. Maybe I should stop looking for guys in nightclubs. Maybe I should look for somebody at a poetry recital that I happen to be interested in, or at an art gallery, or in this society, or I'll look for somebody who's a friend of a friend, or somebody who's a friend from work, etc. Because there's lots of ways to meet people. It doesn't just have to be bars and nightclubs. And perhaps if you find that there's certain patterns being repeated, you need to break that pattern, because the truth is, if people can take advantage of you, they're going to keep trying.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I don't really have anything to add to that, to be honest, because at the end of the day, yeah, it's just be open and honest from day one. And I mean, I kind of learned that actually from you when we were just sort of first getting to like know each other, like first kind of met. You were like, oh, this is like something that you practice, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Because in the past I've been notorious for essentially being a pussy and just not saying what I really wanted, and then I'd end up resenting my partner. And it's like, well, no, just be open and honest from day one, and you won't not run into problems, but I guarantee you'll eventually anyway get a relationship that you're happy with.
Yeah, you'll run into better problems.
Yeah, you'll fail upwards.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, there's a key difference I want to make clear, because I've just seen how that could maybe be interpreted, which is there's a significant difference between me saying, look, I am looking to find somebody who I can settle down with, get married with, have kids with. There's a difference between me saying that and me saying, and you are that person. In one case, I'm just saying, this is what I'm looking for. I'm open, I'm honest. I'm not going to settle for anything that's not that, because I've got clear boundaries, I've got clear direction and values that I'm looking for. That's not the same as saying to the girl, so when do you want to have kids? When do you want to get married? Because that's really full on, and that's putting a lot of pressure on the person. So instead, it should be a case of me saying, look, this is what I'm looking for. I am looking to get married in the next kind of 10 years or so. I am looking to have kids someday with the right person. So when I'm dating people, like when I'm dating you, for example, this is something that does matter to me. So if you can say categorically now, it's not going to happen. I never want kids. I never want to get married. I don't want to settle down. That's fine. But please just tell me now, so neither of us are wasting our time in the wrong relationship. And we can both go and find somebody who's just as awesome as we are, but who's maybe better suited to what you want and what I want right now. I don't think there's any problem with any of that whatsoever. Just don't come across as kind of intense and creepy and needy about it, which won't happen if you've read my book and you know all about pedestaling and how to make sure you're not pedestaling people and you have this abundance mindset. Selfless plug right there. Every episode, I'm just going to work in a cheeky little plug, which is the Mindset for Kings. It is available on Amazon. Buy it. It's great. We'll get a link down in the description, just every episode forever. Like, it'll be the official sponsor.
Even after you take the book down from Amazon, it's still going to be there.
Oh, yeah. It'll be like 50 years' time. Like, we'll be like fucking ancient with grey hair, and I'll have the salt and pepper going on. I'll have like the long man, but also like, still buy the book. If you can't, it's not for sale, but still buy the book.
You'll have the link engraved on your gravestone.
Oh, I should get the link tattooed.
Oh no. No.
Right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a Patreon or a Venmo or Cash App or whatever the fuck it is. If somebody sends in £500, I'll get it tattooed on me because 500 quid will pay for the size of the tattoo.
500 quid and you will get that tattooed.
Jordan will sort out the technical part. I will tattoo the name of my book on my own arm or my leg or my chest or something. I'll get it tattooed on me. Somebody send in 500 quid. Just because that will pay for the cost of the tattoo.
Are we accepting multiple donations? So we could have 5 people donate 100?
Oh, I don't know, because now it just means we just need 500 people to send in a quid.
I would run an ad campaign just to see that happen.
We'll talk about it off air. We'll come back next episode. Yeah. There's at least 500 people who would pay to see me just get a stupid tattoo for the sake of it. So here's what we'll do. We'll talk about it off air. We'll come back next episode. We'll have a decision. And if we're going for it, we'll have the Venmo and link and everything set up in the description. Right. If we go for it. I may need to kind of convince my fiance to not stab me first.
All right, cool. I look forward to it.
So moving on.
Okay. How have you kept your... This is targeted more to me, but we can both answer it. How have you kept yourself motivated since the novelty period, or the honeymoon period, if you want, of starting a new business has run out? So I'll answer first, and then I'll pass over to you. So for me personally, I started my business in July last year. So I would say the novelty period for that business is probably about, let's say, 6 months for argument's sake. Obviously that'll vary, it'll change, but for me personally it was about 6 months. And at that point it's kind of like, for me personally it was kind of, no matter how many times I failed or how many times I was maybe let down or how many times I didn't achieve my goal, it's like, oh, it's okay, it's still new, it's still exciting, I still have a fuckload of energy for this business. And it wasn't until about the 6 month mark that I then started feeling demoralised by, failures, by success, by not achieving success. And to be honest with you, the best thing that I did, and this was actually a recommendation from one of my mentors, by far the best thing I did was, at that point, I was feeling low energy, kind of demoralised. I was like, is it really worth it? So my mentor suggested, hey, why don't you take a week off work, 2 weeks off work, and literally just don't think about it at all. So that's exactly what I did. I took 2 weeks off work. I got all my affairs obviously in order so that I wasn't maybe falling behind in client work or falling behind in my own content. So I got all of those affairs in order the week leading up to it, and then I took 2 weeks off and I said, like, this is going to be 2 weeks, do what I want when I want. I'm not going to worry about kind of my business. And then, I had those 2 weeks off. I enjoyed them, but I found that towards the end of the second week, I was actually then itching to get back to the business. I was excited to start again, and I was like, oh, I don't want to sit here and, I don't know, play on my PC, for example, or I don't want to go out and go for a walk anymore. I want to get on with my work. I want to get on with my business. So I found that doing that essentially kind of refreshed my mindset completely. So then I came back to work and I was just completely refreshed, and it was like I'd started my business from day one again. Now, that's my advice, the best advice I can offer by far for people who are running a business. If you are employed, I think the best way, there's 2 kind of ways you could do it. Number one is to book a holiday for a week, 2 weeks, and just kind of take it because you need it. If that's possible, fantastic, go down that route. If it's not possible, then I think changing your scenery changing your environment could drastically do something in a similar light anyway. So that could mean ask your boss if you can change offices so you have a different view, or you've got a slightly different room layout. And maybe it doesn't work, maybe it does, but at the end of the day, if you try it, you then have a chance of you're being in a new situation, a new environment, you're then in a new state, and therefore it could feel like a completely new job, even if it's just for a couple of months, at which point you can then leverage that newfound energy and that newfound motivation to, I don't know, get a promotion and try out a new higher paying job, or one of a million things. So that's kind of my recommendation, is if you're feeling low energy and low motivation, just take a step back, sort of reframe, just to basically gain an understanding of what your end goal is, take a step back, and then just kind of, just feel refreshed and go full steam ahead. You got any thoughts, Harry?
Yeah, so just quickly read the question again. Was it about losing the honeymoon period, or was it about burnout?
So this is about how have you kept yourself motivated since the novelty period of starting a new business, has run out. So the way I've kind of understood that is obviously you're now out of that novelty period, and then you're then beginning to feel demotivated and burnt out and stressed and stuff from the fact that you don't have that, excitement of starting a new business.
Okay, I get you. I'll be honest. I've been doing dating coaching off and on in various different ways for the best part now of half a decade. The best part of about 5 years, 4 years. I haven't gone through that, and the reason why I've never gone through that, the novelty phase wearing off, is my why is so big and burning and powerful and hard and fucking erect for me that there is never going to be enough. There's never going to be that I've achieved it, or that motivation never wears off, because I wake up every day knowing that, I still haven't hit the goal yet. I still haven't got there. There's still more people I can help. So my motivation is very simple, which is I suffered of social anxiety. It was awful. I don't want there to be any men out there who suffer from social anxiety. I've had friends of mine who are women who have been in terrible, terrible relationships with fuckboys who have just mistreated them and absolutely basically borderline been abusive. And I don't want any of my friends, my sisters, if I have daughters, I don't want them to go for any of that. So my logic was very simple, which is I want to be able to as much as possible, fix the relationship problems that men and women are both having. Well, I know that every single day when I wake up, there are still people out there who are having sucky relationships, who aren't yet living a life to the best of their ability, who aren't yet in control, whether that's with their friendship group, or they're not in control of what their social circle looks like. They're not in control of their own confidence and their own mental state and their own mindset. So the reason why I've never had to worry about that is because my why is just so powerful for me that you can quite literally, I can be 70 years old and I'll still be trying to improve and help people overcome social anxiety and past traumas from when you're a child, and relationship traumas and all these issues. Mm-hmm. And I'll still be trying to give people the best possible tools they can use in order to prevent being manipulated, taken advantage of, being messed around by fuckboys, etc. And vice versa for men. I also want to help men, give men the tools so they can be in the right relationship and not get stuck with the wrong kind of woman for them. So because that's just so important to me, and because that is my motivation for starting the business in the first place, the money is a secondary happenstance to me. And I'm in a lucky situation that it has turned out to be a profitable area. But because the motivation for me is far more about helping people and making the world, trying to make the world a slightly better place at the very least, or at least trying to, it means that I haven't had to go through that. The novelty of running the business was worn off. Because I was never really excited about running the business. My excitement always came from the business is another avenue to helping people. In the same with this podcast, with the YouTube channels or the books, it's never been I'm excited to be a part of a podcast, or I am to an extent. I've never been super excited to have my own YouTube channel, or to start a TikTok, or to write these books, mm-hmm. or to even to talk publicly on stage. The excitement for me has always been able to get that feedback from people saying, oh my God, your book, your talk, I listened to your podcast, whatever it may be. And it really helped me. And for me, if whatever avenue I find is the best way to help people, that is long-term sustainable, and therefore means it has to be able to pay my costs of living and keep me going and financially support myself and my family. Provided that's in place, if it's long-term financially viable and sustainable for me, then I will take any avenue whatsoever. So there's never been an excitement to start the business. The business was just a necessary byproduct to achieve my overall goal. So I can't really help you, I'm afraid, other than kind of saying, maybe take a step back and think, why am I starting this business? What is the real motivation? Is it money? If it's money, then okay, well, here's what you do. You need to tailor it so that every single day you have something there, some financial goal or something you want to buy. I don't know whether it's a Lamborghini poster or it can be whatever you want. And you have to make it specific. And it has to be, right, I've started this business, so in 2 years' time, I can drive that Aston Martin DB11, a Ferrari 458 Italia, a Lamborghini Murcielago. I want you to know the exact price you want, the exact color. I want you to picture yourself in that car. And I want you to then every single day be going, right, today I need to make some cash so I'm closer to that goal. And that's the way to do it. And just focus on what is your big reason, what is the main motivation, and how are your actions every day getting you closer. Because that will drag you through the days when you're like, I can't be bothered. I'm tired. I'm hungover. I've got the flu. It's raining. I can't be fucking bothered. You'll just drag yourself through it because that motivation becomes so powerful for you.
I will say something that I've realised as you were talking, actually, that I've not realised until this moment, is actually while I was off work, that was actually kind of when I figured out what my why is. Like I suppose I kind of knew it, but I kind of always assumed that since starting my business, I knew what it was. But the truth is, now I'm thinking about it, I really didn't. Whereas now, like you've said, I know what my why is. I like that in that time, because my mind was bored, because I wasn't doing work, it's then, I'm now thinking about what my actual why is, and one of a million other things. But and also from that point forward, I'm actually now very easily able to visualize what that goal is and what that why is, whereas before, looking back, I actually couldn't. So to be fair, yeah, I think finding your why is the way you get through that. Okay, next question then. I will ask a question and then you can ask your last question, I believe. So, how do you go about setting yourself milestones? Last two, okay, that's fine. So, how do you go about setting yourself milestones without being too ambitious or not being ambitious enough? And I'll let you answer first.
There's no such thing as too ambitious or not ambitious enough, because what you do is you use both. So if you have an ambition that is make £1 today, that's fine, because you have to start somewhere. If you've never made £1 before, making that first pound is a huge step up. If you then have an ambition that is make £1 every day for the next year, that's only £365 in a year. That's not even going to pay for your fucking rent for a week or your rent for a month or whatever. It will pay for maybe a couple months worth of food, a couple weeks. So it's a question of have both. I have the stupidest, smallest little milestones that anyone could imagine. I genuinely have a milestone on my phone as a thing to tick off that I've done, which is get out of bed. Reason for it is it means when I get up out of bed, I tick it off straight away. It happens 5 minutes after I wake up. Right, I've already succeeded. I'm a winner. Puts me in a good mood. Right, I've already had a success today. Right, I've got some momentum. Let's go hit the next target, the next target, the next target, the next target, the next target. So in terms of your milestones, feel free to be stupidly small about them. But you also have to have the big one. So in my case, it's I want to have affected 1 million people. That is the objective. I want to have 1 million success stories. That is not something you can look at that and go, holy fuck, that's almost impossible. That's going to be so difficult. Like, genuinely have affected 1 million lives. Like, holy fuck. But equally, because I've got these small ones, it's a case of, well, I've had 10 objectives today. I've smashed 9 of them out the park. So yeah, fuck it. Each one of those takes me a step closer. So if I have, for example, let's say it's a business that's more about making money than it is about kind of helping people. If it's a case of make £1 today, jump on 5 sales calls with potential clients, call up 5 leads, record a sales video, appear on a podcast or a YouTube video or something to kind of gain your brand, expose your brand, maybe do Instagram posting, etc., LinkedIn articles. And then the 5th target is make £100,000. Well, if you do those 4 steps, you have made progress towards the 5th one. So and that's the way I'd always do it, which is have stupidly small goals. Just make sure the stupidly small goals are all tailored towards either putting you in a better mood to achieve your big goals or literally taking you a step on the ladder towards getting towards them. Whether that be call these clients or try and get these clients on the phone, see if you can upsell, see if you can get a referral, see if you can do more marketing or brand awareness, etc. Each of those will get you closer to that big goal. So no, I don't think there's such a thing as too small a goal. I don't think there's such a thing as too big a goal. I only think there's people who aren't ambitious enough, personally. What would you say, Jordan?
So there's kind of 2 things I would add, and then I'll let you ask another question. So number 1 is by setting really small, easy goals first thing in the morning. Like you said, you set an alarm or a target to get out of bed first thing in the morning. If you set that first goal, first of all, yes, it sets you up for success, and also it's the first step to achieving other goals, and then it's literally just like a snowball effect. It just, it goes on and on. Like, for example, if you want to go running, set yourself the goal of, right, tomorrow I have to put my running shoes on. You don't have to go running. If you want to, you can put your running shoes on and then get back to bed. That's your choice. But you have to put the running shoes on. And you'll find that once you've taken that first step, you're then more likely to just be like, oh, well, I've got my running shoes on now, I might as well finish getting dressed and go for a run. Like, you've taken the first step. So most people always find the first step hardest, and once you've done that first step, the rest of them come much, much easier. So I definitely agree with you in that sense. Set small goals that you can then just easily follow, and it makes each little step that much easier. Another tip I would say is when you're coming up with your goals, start with your big goal. So write down this big goal, and yes, okay, it'll seem overwhelming and you might think, how am I going to achieve this? But then just break it down into 2 parts, and then break those down into 2 parts, and just keep breaking it down until you get into 100 little tasks that you can spread out over the course of a week or a month or a day even. And little, like, I'm talking tiny tasks that will take you a minute to do each. And if you're doing that and filling up your days with tasks like that, it's going to seem easy. You'll just be like, oh, okay, all I've got to do is send 1 email. Okay, send email, done for the day in terms of that small task anyway. And then if even if you do 10 tasks like that a day, and you've only got 100 tasks towards achieving your big goal, it's going to take you 10 days and then you've achieved that goal. Like, in reality, it'll probably take longer and there will be more minuscule tasks for you to do, but the concept still applies. It doesn't become, how am I going to earn 100,000 by the end of the year? It becomes, how am I going to send 1 email within the next 10 minutes? Okay, I can do that. And then it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And just like you said, that then just snowballs and turns into this big goal.
Yeah, definitely. To give a really concrete example, when I was writing this book that I will continue to shamelessly plug, it's called The Mindset for Kings. It is available on Kindle and Apple Store now. When I was writing that book, for example, one of the things that I made sure I did was I didn't sit down and say, right, today I want to write the whole book. I didn't even say, today I want to write down a chapter. I didn't even say I want to write down a page. What I did was I said, right, step 1 is all I'm going to do today. Maybe I'll do more, but the only thing I have to get done is to just break down a rough idea in bullet points of what I want to say in this chapter. So let's say, for example, it was about body language. I can say, right, I'm going to talk about your face, your eyes, your chest and your torso, your hands and your feet, just to simplify it. And then say, right, that's all I have to do. If I want to do more, I can, but that is enough for me to say today was a success. I come back tomorrow, and then tomorrow's goal is all I'm going to do is put a couple bullet points under each one. So head, what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about the way, whether your head is turned towards you, whether it's tilted up, tilted down, or neutral. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do that for each one of those bullet points. If I want to keep writing and do even more, I can, but I don't have to for it to be a success. Same as you were saying about the running shoes. Step 1, put the running shoes on in the morning. Go back to bed. Tomorrow, running shoes on and go downstairs. Now you can go back to bed. Step 3, or day 3, running shoes on, go downstairs, step outside. Now go back inside, go back to bed. Step 4, go jog to the end of your driveway, or walk to the end of your driveway. And then bit by bit, you just gradually expand what it is. And then eventually you can get to an insane goal, like run a marathon, do an Ironman challenge, something crazy. Yeah. And you'll be surprised, exactly like Jordan said, it's a snowball effect. So just take those small steps each and every single day, and you will absolutely be shocked how much you can improve in a year.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
You happy to move on?
Yeah. Do you want to ask the next question?
All right. So the question is, I'm moving away to university in September. Hopefully COVID, etc. will be over with. So it'll be kind of like how it was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. What would you say is the best way to go about making new friends and finding new people? Because nobody I know is going to that university or even in that city.
Okay, so
what would you say, Jordan?
We're working under the assumption that COVID's over, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely gone.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, some of this a lot of this I will literally talk from my own experience, because I came to a university where I knew exactly maybe 2 people. One of them I didn't know very well. One of them was my girlfriend at the time. So I came to a university where I didn't know many people. I, by any means, didn't have a friend group that I could hang around with regularly anyway. So what I essentially did was, step 1, I went to the Facebook groups for my university. Obviously, your own university will have their own Facebook group. Maybe they'll have a LinkedIn group as well. Maybe they'll have even an Instagram account set up for it, something like that. But groups are always best. So if you can get into your university's Facebook group, then fantastic. You can literally then go there and say, hey, who wants to meet up? Even if it's just to meet up for a meal, or just to meet up and go do something to get to know one another. Because there's going to be other people in the same position as you, and they're then going to jump at the chance if you've made that first move and said, like, look, who wants to meet here at this time on this day and go do something. I probably wouldn't post where you're going to meet and when and where publicly, just to be on the safe side, but you get the idea. So that's one way, is to basically just meet people through that and be proactive about starting conversations with people who show interest and building those relationships up online before you've even started going to university. So like, I met a lot of my really good friends from my first and second year. I pretty much met all of them actually, because I enjoy gaming, and I literally put on one of the Facebook groups, I'm playing, I think it was CSGO at that point. Does anybody want to join me? And then my mate Charlie at the time, my mate Lorenz, I can't remember if there was somebody else who I don't talk to anymore, didn't really stay friends with at uni, but anyway, there was good mates Charlie and Lorenz. They both was like, you know what, I'll come on and play with you. And then from that point we then became friends, and then we've been friends throughout university. So that's one great way. Just find people with shared interests in those Facebook groups. And then the second way, and even better, and even easier to be fair, once you're at university, is societies. Societies are by far, and I'm not a society rep or anything like that, but they are by far the best way to meet people with similar interests, because they are literally named the interest. You just sign up, go do the thing you're interested in, and you will just meet 20 to 30 people that are interested in the same thing. And even if you assume you don't get on with 90% of them, you've still then got a good few people that you get on with. And on top of that, most societies at most universities will do, like weekend drinking events if you're interested in drinking, or they will have specific events that happen during the week. So your free time sort of becomes filled with people that you have something in common with and doing something that you enjoy anyway. So then it's not a case of you have to kind of, make events and create events on your own time. you just kind of have them to do anyway. And on top of that, you've got friends that you can then hang out with outside of that as well if you want to. So that's kind of what I would do. Short of, if you want to, literally standing on uni campus and saying hi to everybody, but at the same time, people might think you're creepy, and two, you might actually get thrown off campus because, I don't know, security might think you're promoting something, but you can always try it if that's what you want to do. I know that's probably the sort of thing Harry would do. So anyway, yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, first thing I'll say is, as a former nightclub promoter, I will attest that security will indeed throw you off of a campus if you just stand in the middle of the middle of the campus and just say hello to everybody and talk to them for a few seconds. Security will definitely ask what the fuck you're doing, and they will ask for identification to prove you even belong at the university. Yeah, that does happen. But no, in terms of the advice you gave, I think it's pretty solid. Before you even go to the university, this obviously varies depending on the university and your accommodation, whether you're living in a student accommodation or whether you've got private residence, etc. But chances are, if you're going to a student accommodation, you probably will have roommates. So the university will have ways for you to be able to go and find out who your roommate's going to be. You can find out who they are in advance. You can message them. You can start little groups. And that way you've kind of automatically got, let's say, 3 to 7 maybe, roommates who you're already going to be, you don't have to be best friends with by any means, but you kind of can have a good kind of friendly relationship to begin with. And you'd be surprised how many times that I know people who don't particularly get on brilliantly with their roommates. They're mates, but they're not kind of best friends. But because they meet somebody who's on their roommate's course through their roommate, they become like best friends with that person. So don't kind of rule anybody out, because you don't know who their friends could be. You don't know the connections they could have. So just go in with an open mind towards kind of everybody. The other thing is, like Jordan was saying about societies, you'll be able to find societies online before you even kind of go to the university in the first place. So say, for example, in my case, rugby was something I looked into a lot at uni. I was able to message universities, rugby society, rugby union society, and say, right, how are you doing? I'm joining in September. Like, are any of you guys second or third years? Are you guys free to like give me the ropes? Where's the good hot spots? Where's the good place to get some grub? Like, what's kind of the cool club to go to? What days of the week are we talking about? Like, take me under your wing, help me out a bit. And you'll find that in any large group of people, there'll always be somebody who's friendly and willing to help you out. And that person, again, if they're in a second year or if they're a third year, they're going to already have friends, connections, social circles, etc. They can kind of bring you into, introduce you with people. And then the final thing is your course. Get in your courses group chats. Like, it's simple. You're doing a course probably with at least a couple hundred other first years. Probably, if it's a popular course, maybe potentially thousands, or certainly thousands of linked courses. So if you do business, you'll also be able to talk to people who do business and marketing, or business and finance, business and law, things like that. And just, you'd be surprised how many people and how many opportunities you do have to just meet people, not least just during the freshers events. So even if you go to a freshers event with just your roommates and you go out, you'll be surprised how, when you're stood in the queue, when you're waiting to get a drink at the bar, if you stood in the line for the bathroom, whatever it may be, you'll bump into people. Just take that opportunity to talk to them. Particularly if you're there with a group of people. I know if you've got kind of anxieties, or if you just don't feel that comfortable opening up and approaching strangers, it can be difficult. But first of all, I think it's a skill you should kind of try to foster in yourself. So do try and do it by yourself anyway. But at the very least, just be aware that it's Freshers Week. They're probably drunk at this event. They're not going to remember you. So it's if you make a bad impression, they're not going to remember you. So it's fine. So you can just walk over, say hello, start talking. And if you hit it off and you become like close and you're friendly and things are going well, that's perfect. If it doesn't hit it off, then it's not an issue. You're just another person they talk to for 5 minutes drunk in a nightclub. We've all spoken to 200,000 of those people. Like, anyone who's been clubbing for more than 10 minutes has met that drunk person who you don't remember 5 minutes later, but you somehow spoke to for 25 minutes. And then the final thing is actually something that happened when I was at university, and it wasn't me who did this, but I'll give kudos. I know he's a private guy, so I'm not going to say his name. But one of my mates from uni, he quite literally, on the first day, we all moved in that day, he knocked on every single door in the accommodation. And we're talking probably about 50 to 80 people. And he said, by the way, I'm hosting a get to know you prees down in my flat. Like, you should all come down. And he literally just knocked on every door and invited every person. Said, this is the room number. It's on the ground floor. Like, here's where to find me. Like, come down at this time, bring some booze. Like, let's all have a drink, have a laugh, have a chat, get to know each other. And it was like, all right, sweet. And so obviously he knocked on my door. I went down to that. I met a load of people in the flat and in that block immediately. And there's kind of easy icebreakers because you're not sat there with one person and one other person trying to get to know each other. There's loads of people. You can start being really fun. You can be the person who introduces drinking games and things like that. And if you're somebody who's providing value to the group, if you're the kind of person who's laughing at other people's jokes and you're making jokes that other people are laughing at, and you're just kind of giving this massive amount of value to the social group, you will find that people are drawn to you like magnets and your social network will just explode.
Yeah, 100%. You definitely touched on some points that I suppose I've experienced but didn't actually touch on. But yeah, no, that I really like the idea of that story though, of that guy going up and down the block, literally just asking people to come to the house party. That's a really good idea.
Literally every single flat.
Fair play.
Like, fair play to him.
Yeah, fair play. As long as it obviously complies with your regulations at your accommodation. Just a quick disclaimer there. We're not encouraging you to break rules.
Okay, yeah. Okay. It was absolutely fine and nobody was offended in this specific scenario and everybody had a good time.
That's good. Okay. Okay.
Right, so what you got for me next?
Right, next question. I've actually got one specifically towards marketing and business. So how to create a good first marketing funnel. So, I mean, I have a pretty straightforward and quick answer if you want me to go first.
Yeah, go for it.
So, obviously creating a funnel is more specific to your business and specific to the platforms you have, your audience, etc., etc. But there's a general model that I like to follow, at least with a very basic kind of general purpose funnel. And that is, first you want to start with the awareness, which is literally getting people to see your brand, your business and you. So that can be done through things like content. That is by far the best way to do that. Interest is essentially sharing your offer and your product and your services and generating, as it says, interest in that. Then it's evaluation and basically kind of convincing people to buy from you. And sort of warming that lead up, taking them from, oh, that's a cool service, to, do I want to buy it? Commitment is then literally getting the person to say, yes, this is a product I need. I can see how it's going to benefit me. How do I buy? Where do I go to get this product or service? Then you have the sale, which self-explanatory. This is where they buy the product or service from you. That's basically this is where most funnels generally want. That's kind of where they put their end point. I like to add 2 extra layers to a funnel. One is loyalty, which is essentially through your customer service, basically establishing that people want to keep coming back to you and buying from you. So you don't just make the sale, but you make repeat sales, whether you're selling a product and you keep selling future products, or you're selling a service and you get that customer on a retainer. And then after that as well, I like to include promotion, and that is basically a strategy to basically create such a positive customer experience and buying experience that your customers end up promoting your business, your products and your services for you without you even having to ask them to. Of course, this can also include testimonials where you actually ask for a testimonial, but primarily this will be stuff like word of mouth. So somebody just saying, oh, I bought this teacup from this teacup company the other week and it was amazing, and then telling all their family about it, and it's just a ripple effect. So that's kind of the basic 7 elements I like to include in a funnel, and kind of what I bear in mind when I do go about sort of creating a funnel for my business. But if this person wants to jump on a private call with me at any point, I'm happy to talk through these points in more detail, because again, this could be a podcast in and of itself, and I don't just want to go off on this tangent. So so if this person wants to jump on a call, just send me a message after you've watched the podcast and let me know. Do you have anything to add to that, Harry?
No, not really. In terms of funnels, it's never been my focus. The marketing is more your area of expertise, your authority.
Yeah.
So in terms of when I've done funnels in the past, they've been very simplistic compared to something, say, you do or you could do. For the longest time, my logic was very simple, which is I'm going to do such a good job. You're going to be so drastically changed by my teachings, my lessons. Your mate's going to notice. Your mate's going to get jealous. Your mate's going to ask you how that's possible. You're then going to send them to me, and I'm going to get business that way. Obviously, that's not a long-term sustainable plan, especially if I'm trying to kind of fix 1 million people.
Yeah.
So I need to kind of a broader reach. So I'm in the process of building funnels. But the main part for me now is, like you said, it's just awareness. So hence the podcast, the YouTube channel, the TikToks, the Instagram, the selfless plugging of my book, The Mindset of Kings, available now on Amazon Kindle and on iStore. It's one of those.
Yeah, okay. That's sounding. I'll ask you about something like this again in a future episode then. And then you can kind of share your more recent experience of going from not having funnels and not understanding them necessarily to, actually then using them throughout your business.
To be fair, I can tell you exactly how it's going to work. What it's going to be is I'm going to do exactly what Jordan just said to do, and I'm going to copy it word for word, do it exactly the way he did it, and then smile because it will make me a fuck ton of money, and it means I'll be able to buy my fiance probably a new car or something because her car's starting to pack in a bit.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd say that's the smart decision, not to be self-gratifying there, but I don't have a book to promote, so...
So if you need, message him. He'll find a way to help you out, and obviously you guys can help him out in return by giving him money. It's great. It's a win-win.
Easy mode. Easy. Okay, I've got one more dating question specific.
You give him money, he'll make you more money.
Exactly, pretty much, yeah. Money for money. That's basically how I work. Okay, so I've got one more question that's specific to you as a person, and then I'll let you ask your final question.
Oh God.
I believe I've got your final question now. Okay, so last podcast episode you talked about your transformation period. Did you make any major changes to your daily routine? Is it much different now compared to what it was before your transformation, as you called it in that episode?
Good question. Yes, my routine is totally different to what it was back then. But I do want to kind of preface this by saying that could just be age. When we're talking about you kind of changing from 18 to kind of your early to mid-20s, a lot of the changes you're going to go through aren't just necessarily going to be linked to any one thing. It could also just be you're maturing and your lifestyle changes. So when I was 18, I was like, when I was 18, I'd just left school, I was on my gap year. I didn't have any responsibilities. I didn't have anything to do other than whatever I wanted to do that day. I didn't work or anything like that up until 6 months in when I met the mentor I started working for. Not going to out his name. So it was only a case of, for those first 6 months, I didn't have a routine. I woke up whenever I woke up. I did what I was going to do that day, and then I'd probably go drinking of the night time and pass out whenever I passed out, and then wake up the next morning hungover, get some food, and do the same again. I kind of had like a uni student's lifestyle for like a year without the uni work.
Yeah.
Obviously now my morning routine is totally different, but part of that is because now I'm much older. I have a business, I have a child, I have a fiance, I have responsibilities and commitments that I need to they need my attention as and when they need them. So I can't just kind of flippantly go, I'll sort food out later, don't worry about it. I'll go back to bed, which is what I would have done when I was 18. Do I think any of them are linked specifically to the transformation? Yes. But I don't want to expressly say that they are definitely correlated, if that makes sense. They're correlated, but I don't want to say there's causation, I should probably say. In terms of my morning routine now, I wake up, I have an alarm set for every day. It just varies day to day, but my alarm is always kind of set, and I always wake up the same time on a Monday, and I always wake up the same time on Tuesdays, and Wednesdays I wake up at the same time, etc. So Monday and Tuesday might be different, but every Monday I wake up at the same time. And first thing I do when I wake up is I think to myself, what am I happy about? So it's a case of, right, I'm awake. Cool. Why am I happy to be awake? And I go through 5, 10 different things.
Yeah.
And it's something as silly. It can be silly. It's personal. So it's whatever you genuinely are happy. Why are you happy that you woke up? Well, I'm happy I woke up because that means I've got another day on this earth to spend with my son. I have another day on this earth to spend with my fiance. I have another day on this earth I get to spend trying to help people and improve people's lives. I have another day on this earth where I get to be a better son to my parents. I have another day on this earth where I can be a better sibling to my brothers and my sisters. All these different kind of things. It can be as simple as you want. I can wake up and go, why am I happy I woke up today? Still got a full head of hair. I'm not going bald. Ha, fuck you, everybody else. Like, it could be anything you want, as long as it actually kind of, like Jordan's doing now, he's laughing in the background. If it puts a smile on your face and you find it amusing, go for it, because it puts you in a good mood.
Yeah.
I'm religious, so I then pray. I spend 10 to 15, 20 minutes every morning before I even get out of bed praying. And I think a lot of people do meditation, and I would say essentially it's the same kind of thing. If you're not religious, spend 15, 20 minutes just meditating first thing in the morning. Next thing is I do some kind of physical exercise. Again, it does vary day to day. It could be just push-ups or sit-ups on the floor. It could be yoga or stretches. I could go for a jog. It could be weight training.
Yeah.
Totally varies. But the important thing is I put no food in my body. I haven't even had a glass of water yet. I haven't done anything else. I am just going, right, empty stomach, empty tank, let's go. And I do something. And then followed by that, it's a case of, right, where's my son? Where's my fiance? Let's go spend some time with them. Most mornings I'll then kind of get my son, put him in his pushchair, and we'll go out for a walk. And it could be anything from 5 minutes to 3-4 hours. You were there on the phone to me yesterday when I did about a 12-mile walk with him for no reason other than he was asleep. And I was like, well, let's not go home and startle him. Let's just keep walking. So we did this big, nice long walk. I really enjoy it. I think it is really, really important that you spend time with the people you care about. It is really important you spend time with, in my case, the reason I do everything. I am trying to make the world a better place for my son. I'm trying to become financially independent and make some money for him, to provide for him, and to provide for my fiance. So it's a case of that is the reason I do it. So by exposing myself to that motivation first thing in the morning, I'm ready to go the rest of the day. It means if you put a gun to my head at 9 o'clock and went, right, it means that no matter what comes my way, someone puts a gun to my head, I'm willing to go, fuck it, let's just go. And I'm just willing just to carry on and push for any hurdle. You can break my arm and I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the hospital in a minute. Let me finish making sure this book is finished. Book known as The Mindset of Kings. It is available on Amazon and on Apple Store now.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I love how you're laughing, but the truth is, mate, you're the one who agreed to me being on the podcast. You know me. You knew this was coming.
Yeah, true.
Whoever edits this, by the way, can we put a little counter in the bottom left corner? Can we just put a little counter in the bottom left corner? How many shameless plugs has Harry used? And just keep it tallying across every episode. And we'll end up episode at 12.1 of 2,000 references to my book. Known as The Mindset of Kings, available on Amazon and Apple Store.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, that's kind of my morning routine. It's a lot of mental focus. It's a lot of I do lots of physical stuff. Then it's a case of gratitude. Who are the people that I'm doing everything for? What is my motivation? So I get my mind right. I get my body right. I then get my emotions right by spending time with them. That's kind of my routine now. It's ever changing. It is going to evolve, and it's not the same now as it was kind of say 6 months ago. And I'm sure in 6 months' time it'll be even better.
Yeah. But
currently, that is what my morning routine is.
Okay, cool. Sounds like you've got, it's kind of almost, you've made those mindset changes and those lifestyle changes, and then you've naturally gone into a different way of life, and then that's kind of correlated to you having different routines, basically.
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Okay, do you want to ask your last question then, and then I've just got a few more, and then we can wrap up.
You know what, let's just go straight with yours, because I'm looking at my last question, and I feel like it's not the same as one we've already had, but it's similar enough that I think we can give better value just by focusing on your questions.
Alright, cool, no stress then. So, okay, nice simple one that applies to both relationships and business. What is the best way to, or what are the best ways to break the ice for business and also for dating? So I will let you go first with the dating side of it, and then I'll jump into the business.
Okay. It completely depends on the situation you're in. I mean, if we're talking about what's the best way to break the ice with somebody at a freshers party when you're kind of expected to break the ice and start talking to each other, that's totally different to if you're 27 and you're in a library and you see somebody you look trying to buy a copy of a book that you're really interested in. So it does completely vary. But as a rough rule of thumb, it would be, what is something situational around you? What's something in the environment that you can kind of point to and make comments about or ask a question about and make it genuine? So if, for example, it's the kind of freshers thing, you are allowed in a freshers environment where nobody knows anybody to say, hey, sorry, I just haven't met you yet. My name's Harry. Where are you from? What's your name? Where are you from? Well, I'm Harry. I'm from Birmingham, just moved here from Birmingham. It's my first day here as well. Like, what's your name? Where are you from? And you're entitled to do that. If you're in the library, like, and you're 27, it might be a bit weird to walk up to somebody and say, hi, I'm from this place. Where are you from? What's your name? That can kind of come off as a bit kind of, it's just not kind of congruent with the environment. So again, it'd be look at the environment and something like that. So you can turn around and say, hey, really quickly, that book you've got, let's say, for example, it's The Mindset of Kings, written by Harry Cutress, so she's about to buy a hardback copy of it.
I knew you were going to do that the second you mentioned the library. I knew you were going to do that.
I'm impressed because even I didn't know I was going to do it yet. But yeah, let's say this woman's sat there holding a copy of, it can be any book, but you then kind of turn around and, like, if you're genuinely interested by the book or you have a genuine question, that's what you use. So in my case, for example, say she was stood there reading Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'd be able to walk over and say, hey, just really quickly, I've read the book and I'm a massive fan of it. You kind of look like you're kind of deciding whether or not it's worth reading. Can I help you in any way? And just kind of just have this mindset of, look, you don't know them, they don't know you. You have no way of knowing if you like the person yet, if you want a good reaction, or if you want any kind of relationship with them moving forwards. And the only way to kind of find that out is by getting to know them and asking questions and getting to know each other. And go in with that mindset, which is, you don't know anything about them. You have no idea yet if you want to date the person, sleep with the person, etc. All you know is what they look like. So go in with that mindset of, I'm just as likely to reject them as they are to reject me. So how are you doing? And just kind of go in with whatever genuinely comes to your mind at that given moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For business, what would you say?
For business in person, I would say it's very similar to what you've said for dating. It's just a case of essentially making the first move if, you know, people don't look like they're going to, and literally, yeah, just showing genuine interest about something, whether it's a book they're reading or an article they've written. Maybe you follow them on social media, and you have a question to ask them. Like, for example, if you saw Harry and I at a business conference and you thought, oh, you know, I saw their podcast the other day and they didn't answer this question, and then you can walk up to us, ask us that question. You've broken the ice. We're comfortable enough to answer that question. So it's sort of in person, that's kind of the way, yeah, that it kind of applies directly across dating and business. But for online, which obviously pretty much everything will be for the foreseeable future, the way to do it is literally apply the same sort of things, but for example, on LinkedIn, send somebody a message and say, hey, name, love your profile, love what you're doing at business name, insert business name here, or insert experience they've had here, would love to learn more about it. And 9 times out of 10, people love talking about themselves. Just look at Harry, and basically then you'll kind of open up a conversation, because they'll be like, oh, they want to learn more about me. And if you're genuinely interested in that business or in that person, then you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions, and then that turns into a conversation. Then you can move it down the funnel to reference the other question, and then you can have them jump on a call with you, and then you can have a conversation like Harry and I are now, and then it just becomes more and more personal until you can then meet up in real life and blah, 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 so on, and then you've built the relationship. So it's just a case of making that first move, showing genuine interest, and giving value without being creepy, basically.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that last point because that's a really good point that I probably didn't make that clear, which is it's all about going with a giving hand and not taking hand.
Yeah.
So it's all about when you're interacting with somebody, what value are you providing to them for free, expecting nothing back. Mm-hmm. Don't go into an interaction trying to take value from them. Yeah. So whether that's you see a group of people who are having fun and having a laugh, don't go join the conversation because you're like, well, these people are all having a laugh. That means I can laugh as well. No, because now you're kind of sucking the energy out of the group because you're not contributing to it. You want to go in and see these people look like really fun people. They're the kind of people I want to be around because they're going to get these kind of jokes. And you kind of jump in with trying to be funny. You're trying to make people laugh. Not in a kiss-assy kind of a way of trying to make jokes you hope people will like, but in sort of a mindset of, well, I'm going to entertain myself. I'm going to make the kind of jokes that I find funny. And the people who are suited to being around me, who have the same sense of humor as me, will be drawn to me, and people who have different sense of humors who, let's be honest, we're not that suited either as a relationship as friends if we just disagree on what's funny. Those people will be pushed away. Well, that's good. It means you're weeding through people quite quickly by just being yourself and having a mindset of, I'm just going to give value, whether that be humor, whether that be just high energy, whether that be kind of, I'm going to make sure that the shy person in the corner, I'm going to turn around and say, so what's your opinion? I'm going to bring people into the conversation who may be a bit too timid to start interjecting and interrupting people to kind of give their voice and let their voice be heard. So I think that's a really strong point you made then, mate.
All right, cheers, yeah. No, definitely. Okay, next question then. Again, this can be applied to business and relationships, but it's more of a general mindset question. I'll answer this one first. So, how to not care what other people think. And simply, the way that I don't care what people think, and, well, with the exception of a very small circle of people, the way I kind of go about it is, it's just a case of drilling into your head and really deeply understanding that 99.9999999% of people, their opinion, you genuinely ask yourself, look in the mirror and ask yourself, does this person liking or not liking me or my idea or this thing impact me or impact me getting closer to my goals or impact the life I want to live in any way, shape or form? If the only reason it does is because you let it, then that's a pretty good sign that you shouldn't let it, essentially. Because that's the truth. Most people's opinions don't affect whether you're going to be successful or whether you get to do something you want to do. So once you understand that, it's kind of pretty easy to not care what other people think and just kind of do what you want to do within reason. And that's kind of how I did it. So I'm kind of curious to hear how you do it, Harry, because obviously, you've gone through the whole process of going from being super, super anxious to getting rejected a lot, but at the same time being more outgoing and therefore getting not rejected, getting accepted a lot. So I'm curious to hear what you think on this.
So I'm going to give I've got three answers for you. I'm going to start with the long-term answer. The long-term answer is just get used to it. Mm-hmm. There's this thing in psychology called gradual desensitization. It's one of the best proven ways to get over, say, a phobia of spiders or snakes or agoraphobia or anything like that. And the exact same thing works for social anxiety, which is the quickest or not the most efficient way, if you want to get over the fear of, for example, being rejected by somebody, is to go out and get rejected 10,000 times. Because then your brain just learns, okay, you get rejected, didn't kill me, no reason to be upset, no reason to be fearful of this, no reason to care, because it's happened before, didn't kill me, so I can carry on. That is, without a shadow of a doubt, a fantastic way of doing it, even if it does take a bit more time, and even if it is one of these things that's not particularly pleasant to go through in the short term. Second thing I'd say is make sure you're not pedestaling people. I know I keep going on about this idea of a pedestal a lot, but it's because it is probably the root of most of the people listening to this problems with mindset, with confidence and with anxiety, which is if picture somebody you know in your life right now whose opinion you just do not give a flying fuck about. Somebody who if they turned around and said, I hate what you're wearing, you'd kind of go, cool story, and just move on and not even care. Chances are you don't have them on a pedestal. Instead, it's the opposite. Chances are you look down your nose at them, probably, or down at them, and you're aware of what their flaws are and why their opinion doesn't matter. Yeah. Once you take people off a pedestal, you kind of eliminate the power you've put on their opinions. So it's one thing, for example, in terms of, say, this business podcast, if Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos magically appeared on this call right now, and both of them turned around and said, you two fuckers have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, well, that's going to have an effect on us, because that's somebody who clearly is on that pedestal of success. They do know what they're talking about when it comes to business and to marketing, etc. But if a random person in my DMs messaged me saying, the fuck you talking about, bro? You don't know how to get laid. And I'm stood there going, okay, who are you? Why does your opinion matter? And the other thing is, depending on what the opinion is about, you can just be realistic with yourself. Which is, somebody messages me and says, oh, mate, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know. Why are you qualified as a dating coach? Well, I can sit there in my head and go, well, I've got these success stories. I've got these success stories from clients. I was able to achieve this and to achieve this and achieve this. And I've dated these kinds of people and I've done this. And I currently have a fiance and a child. So clearly I do know what I'm talking about, because I'm no longer that shy, anxious, insecure guy who, God help him, would probably have died a virgin, or at the very least been in a terrible relationship where he just had to settle for somebody who just wasn't the right match for him because I couldn't have done any better.
Yeah.
So you can just be realistic with yourself depending on the criticism. And if there's some criticism that you find really, really offends you or really upsets you, perhaps there is something you can do about it, if it's something that you kind of agree with, or if it's something you hear about consistently. So if, for example, we in the comments get 2,000 comments saying, Harry, mate, you look fat, then I can either turn around and say, well, do I care about this? No, I don't. Who the fuck are these people? They don't have any impact on my life. I'm never going to see and or hear from them ever again. So I don't care. Or I can say, you know what? I agree with that. I have put on a bit of weight over Christmas. Right, let's ramp it up. I'm going to use that as fire, as motivation to go prove these fuckers wrong. And I'm going to come back in 2 weeks' time, be absolutely jacked and ripped to fuck. So it totally comes down to the end of the day, nothing anybody says has any impact on you other than the impact you choose to allow it to have on you. So that can be motivation. It can be something you can just laugh at and go, yeah, this guy's telling me how to run a business. Get back to me when you've made 100K in a year. Or this person's talking to me about how I have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of relationships. He's divorced. I'm happily engaged. Clearly, like, his opinion's irrelevant.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways you can deal with it, but those are the ways I've go about doing it, which is just desensitize yourself in the first place, so you just don't care about opinions, particularly negative ones, and kind of just be realistic about what the opinion is. Maybe it is actually constructive and it is useful, and you can do something from it. Or you can use it as motivation just to say, right, you keep saying I'm a fucking idiot. I'm not going to succeed. Okay, watch me, motherfucker. I'm going to go and succeed now just to prove a point. And I don't think that's the best motivation, but I know lots of people out there, successful athletes in particular, who do use that kind of that anger and that hatred as like fuel in their belly to go and succeed. And the only other final thing I'll say, Michael Jordan, brilliant example. Conor McGregor, I'm pretty sure is the same. Yeah. It's all about proving your doubters and your haters wrong. Yeah. And the final thing I'll say, and this is the part that people don't like hearing, is if you want to stop caring about the negative things people say about you, you also have to stop caring about the positive things people care about you. You have to be able to detach your ego in both cases. So in the same way, I'm not fussed if somebody comes up on the street to me and gives me some kind of criticism and says whatever they say about me. I also don't particularly have any emotional response if somebody comes up and gives me a compliment. Because at the end of the day, I've detached myself from other people's opinions and I just give myself my own self-worth. I think I'm great. I think I'm a good-looking guy. I think I'm awesome. I think I'm providing value. I think I'm getting better at every single day. I have the proof I'm getting better because I know who I was yesterday. I know who I am today. And because of that, I'm the only reassurance I need. I don't need another person to tell me that I'm doing great, and I'm not paying attention if somebody else is telling me that I'm full of shit. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to not care about other people's opinions. Period. Not just the good, or not the bad, I suppose. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Cheers. Okay, 2 more questions then. The last one will be super quick anyway. Right. So this is more university related. So thoughts on postgraduate study versus working after finishing undergrad studies, and I'll let you go first.
Okay. I'm going to preface this with apologies in advance, but my personal opinion on university is 99% of you who have gone to university have probably wasted your fucking time. Simply because at the end of the day, I know lots and lots of graduates, and I know lots and lots of people who have got no skills that are even remotely affecting the jobs they get. They have a degree in, for example, geography, and I'm not specifically slagging off geography as a degree, but they have a degree in geography, but they go and work in a business doing kind of office IT spreadsheets that when you ask them what they're doing, they can't really tell you because they'd fall asleep trying to explain it. It's boring, and it's horrible. And they're those kind of people. Well, the vast majority of people have a degree that has nothing to do with their job. Now, obviously, there's exceptions. If you're in STEM, if you're trying to become a lawyer or a doctor, things like that, fair enough, you are literally legally required to have the degree and the qualification in order to pursue that career. But I think most people go into university thinking you need a business degree in order to get certain jobs. And yes, the higher tier jobs, that's absolutely true. And it's increasingly becoming the case whereby everybody has a degree. So if you want to go and work what would traditionally have been seen as a rather lower end job, you still need a degree just to get in the door because there are so many applicants. So the question all comes down to, what do you want from life? If you're looking to be successful, if you're looking to kind of, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur and you're doing a business degree, I don't necessarily think, and I've got lots of friends who I'm sure can vouch for this, who will tell you that a business degree does not set you up for running your own business. It sets you up brilliantly for middle management. It doesn't set you up for being able to start your own business from the ground up and go for it, particularly not the marketing side, for example. And the same exact thing kind of applies across the board. So what do you want from life? If you are looking to get a job, work as an employee, trade your time for money, and go get a nice, well-paying job, definitely go get a degree. And if you think that a specific graduate program can improve your ability to get certain jobs you're looking for, go for it, absolutely. Like my fiance is doing her degree in business, no issue with that whatsoever. Like she wants to go into certain jobs that require that degree. That's brilliant. The kind of things I want to do, I haven't yet needed a degree for, and I've done various jobs over the last few years, all of which cared more about my experience and my skill set and not what piece of paper do I have framed in my office. What would you say, Jordan?
Yeah, no, so I agree with what you've said. To frame it in the context of should they go for post-grad study, so I assume they mean in masters, or going straight into work, it's essentially, like Harry said, it's kind of a case of what do you want to do with your life and does it benefit you. So if you are doing the kind of degree that you need a master's or a doctorate, if you're talking about a doctorate, to get that job, then and that's what you want to do with your life, you know, if that's your end goal, then by all means go and do the masters, because at the end of the day it will benefit you achieving your goals. If you are in a position where you don't need that master's, you don't need that doctorate, and you can just basically get the job you want and live the life you want on just a standard bachelor's degree, by all means, just literally finish it there, jump straight into the job industry, because experience in any job is worth more at that point. And lastly, if you're in a similar position to, say, me and Harry, where your degree doesn't necessarily relate to what you want to do in life, at least not right at this point. Obviously, I know, Harry, you know, you're not at university, but still, if you're in a situation where you're doing a degree and you're thinking, oh, this maybe doesn't relate to what I really want to do in life, then if you're kind of towards the end of your degree, then I suppose finish it, so you have the degree to fall back on if you want to. But equally, if you want to literally just as soon as physically possible, as soon as you're ready, just literally go, just get out into the world and start doing what you want. Don't waste as little time as you possibly can doing something you don't want to do. Even if you started the degree thinking, right, this is what I want to do with my life, and then decide a year in, I don't really want to, it's not for me. Just honestly, there's nothing wrong with quitting, it's not even quitting, it's changing your life path and doing something that you are meant to do, as opposed to something you feel forced to do. So that's kind of the way I'd go. Just literally decide what you want to do and be honest with yourself, what you want to do with life, and then decide whether that would benefit you, and then make your decision, and make most decisions based on that.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing I can add to that, really.
Okay, cool.
It is one of those where I do feel there are certain decisions in life that people try to kind of give somebody else the power to make the decision for them. This is definitely not one of those where you should be giving anybody else the ability to make that choice for you.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to you. What do you want from the future? What do you want from your life? And what do you therefore think is the best path to getting there? And if it's a question of you just want to make money, you don't care how you make it, maybe getting a job and experience might be better for you, because then you can maybe start your own business or a side hustle or something where you become financially free, probably far quicker and easier than you could as an employee. But if you have a specific job in mind, kind of regardless of what the job is, the more qualifications you have, whether that be a master's, a PhD, etc., that's only going to be helpful to you. It's very rare, I think, having a PhD or a master's degree will be a hindrance to getting a job.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, right, last question then. And I've been told by the person asking it that, well, first of all, this is a question that specifically you have to answer. And I've also been told that this is by far the most important question asked tonight. Okay,
that's pretty judgmental, given the fact that the person doesn't know what the other questions were.
True.
That's assuming a lot.
They've said that, objectively speaking, this is the most important question, and they've also said they would like you to try and guess who it is who has asked this after. So, right, the question is, are you ready? Are you sitting down?
I'm ready.
How's the baby?
My baby is beautiful. Fantastic. My little boy, he's absolutely brilliant. He's healthy, he's happy, he eats, he sleeps, he poops. He's great. He's got an infectious little smile on him. Thankfully, he got that from his mom, and he is just a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Fantastic. I think we can agree that was, of course, the most important question.
I think it's the most important question for me. I'm not sure the viewers and the listeners care that much about my offspring, but sure.
No, everybody loves kids.
And I'm guessing that was sent to you by a random person who we've never met before, in the comments, using no display photo and a random email address that ends at Yahoo that was emailed into you. That's who I think it was.
No.
I'm guessing that was from M, you missed.
Yeah, that was from M. Yeah. All right, cool. So that's all my questions. Do you have anything else you wanted to ask, or anything else you wanted to just say, other than promoting your book? If you do it again, I'll kick you off this call right now.
No, all I was going to say is I've really enjoyed this. I'm sure and I hope you guys have enjoyed this too. So what I was going to say was we don't particularly have plans to do this again anytime soon, because we've got other stuff we want to do, other guests we want to talk to, etc., and some really kind of exciting stuff planned moving forward over the next couple of weeks. But that doesn't mean you can't still be sending in questions. So feel free, you already know how to reach us, whether it's on Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Feel free to keep sending in questions. Who knows, we may start doing something where the last 5 minutes of every podcast will answer 1 or 2 questions kind of quickly. Who knows? But keep sending the questions in, and even if it's something that we don't particularly want to answer on the podcast, who knows, I might personally see it on my Instagram. I might kind of check my messages myself for once.
Yeah.
And if I see it, I might go, right, brilliant, I'm going to reply to this. Like I'll DM you a response, who knows. So keep sending in your questions. I've really enjoyed this. You've asked some really good questions, some really complex questions, and some kind of soft as fuck weird questions right at the end. So it's just one of those. Just keep sending in your questions. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll let you do the official sign off, Jordan.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this episode as well. There have been some absolutely fantastic questions. Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough for the amazing questions you've actually sent in. And yeah, keep sending in the questions, literally, as they come to you. Even if you want to spam me, I can't speak for Harry, but if you want to just spam me with a crap load of questions, by all means. I can't promise I'll answer them then and there, but I will definitely put them in to answer in a future podcast episode at the very least. So yeah, just keep sending in your questions, guys. And next week we've got something very, very exciting. We've got a fantastic guest coming on. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to be talking about some of the dating problems they're having. We're going to be talking about some of the business side of things. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, and I genuinely cannot wait. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.